Maverick News, the antivirus program for your mind. And now, the Freedom Reporters.
I have to unmute my microphone so that I can talk. It always works better that way. How are you tonight, Brendan?
Hey, I'm doing quite well. Thanks for having me tonight.
Oh, I'm glad you're back. It's good to have a friend by my side, especially on a night like tonight. And hello, Maverick family and new viewers from all over the globe. Great to have all you guys with us too. And what a day, what a night we have, what a show we have lined up for you. And I hate to use the word show. I never liked that. It's not supposed to be just entertainment. It's supposed to be news, current affairs, information, journalism. And I think right now we need that more than ever because I think our countries are in a little bit of trouble, Brendan, tonight. Maybe even on the verge of a civil war from what I'm seeing. What do you think?
I didn't have that in the cards for 2024 until recently, so there is a lot of tension in the news cycle right now, and it is concerning to myself. And with Texas, I think the biggest concerning aspect for me is we have the National Guard, which is, let's call them Team A, and then we have the federales under Joe Biden. We'll call them Team B. Both scenarios are both teams have guns and they're both in the same space and they're both at ideological loggerheads.
Mm-hmm.
It smells like 1864 all over again. Like, really, is what it smells like. And I've been thinking about this for a couple of days, really.
Yeah. So what we have is a situation where the Texas state government has been laying down razor wire and building barriers along the U.S.-Mexico border. Biden has this, is sending down his own federal agents, right, to go down there and remove these barriers. And it's setting off a standoff because National Guard troops report to usually a state governor. But it's my understanding that ultimately they are part of the U.S. military and therefore answer to the commander-in-chief, which would be Biden. And if, in this case, they are conflicted, they might be forced to choose a side in this matter. Tonight, we also see Marjorie Taylor Greene weighing in on this, and I think fanning the flames, she is calling for a national divorce. We need to separate by red states and blue states and shrink the federal government, Greene tweeted. Here's NBC News report on this. It says we need a national divorce. We need to separate by red states and blue states and shrink the federal government. Everyone I talk to says this, from the sick and disgusting woke culture issues shoved down our throats to the Democrats' traitorous America Last policies. We are done. What do you make of that?
Well, Joe Biden has been refusing to cooperate or even have discussions with Governor Abbott of Texas. And when you run out of diplomacy, like what happens next? At least in my experience, like if you look all throughout history at different conflicts and when people stop talking to each other, that's a bad thing. I'm putting the onus of this on Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden, he needs to be a leader. He's not being a leader at all. She's right in aspects. Yeah, the government is ballooned, but I don't think that we should be prepared to lose the United States and divorce anybody. Like Republicans are very family oriented, and they're like, well, let's get a divorce. When has that ever happened? Like come on, man.
Yeah, come on, man. Come on, can't
Look,
we all get along?
look,
Yeah,
the original United States Civil War was the most bloodiest affair that the world has ever seen. Like millions and millions of people. It was the precursor to World War One. Like World War One had way more casualties, but the American Civil War had way more casualties than any conflict in Europe had ever seen.
yeah, yeah. War is always popular in the beginning because the people who want it use a lot of propaganda. They sell people on the idea. They use emotion. They convince people that war is the answer, that killing people is the answer, armed rebellion is the answer. And it's always popular in the beginning because people have a certain sense of euphoria. It's like a sporting event, going into a sporting event. We're going to win. But then when the war begins and you get involved in it, then the horrors of it become apparent. In particular, those who participate on the front lines. The death makes it very unpopular, ultimately. And I pray tonight that we don't go down that path. And because I don't think that a divorce between the red and the blue states will go smoothly.
No, it would never go smoothly. A transition like that would create a power vacuum. I can guarantee you any money.
Yeah. And I think that kind of instability, that division would ultimately spread to Canada this time. And I'm looking at what has just happened in the past week with the visit of Tucker Carlson, who said that he was coming to Canada to liberate the country. I've been focused on Lieutenant Steve Rogers, who has been engaged in an SOS campaign, getting Canadians to essentially write letters to the US government asking for US intervention, essentially inviting some sort of an invasion in order to save Canada. Folks, you don't save the country by asking another country to invade you. It blows my mind that people were sending these letters. And then there's Jackson Hinkle, who also has been saying repeatedly that he thinks that they should come up here and take over Canada because it's a threat. Lieutenant Steve Rogers says Canada is a national security threat. I get it, because they see the Chinese influence, if not infiltration, of the Canadian government up here. So they see that as a threat. Although Jackson Hinkle is a self-proclaimed communist, so I don't see why that bothers him, but I don't think it's about ideology with him. He says they should just take it over because we have a lot of resources, or whatever it is, whatever other reasoning he has. I don't think it's so much political ideology driving it. But as much as these things, nobody's been taking it seriously. I have been, and it's because it's laying the foundation for something that might come. And what that thing that might come, I think, is what we're seeing unfold right now at the border in Texas. It's that, and it's going to spread.
I have kind of a different interpretation of when Tucker Carlson made that video.
Yeah.
Where he said he was going to do that. After listening to both of the Tucker speeches, which were actually pretty much both the same, both of them, Only difference being like the Edmonton one was way better. Just my thought there. But everything he talked about in both the speeches really seems to highlight things that are wrong with our country. And these are the tools and the facts that if anybody tells you otherwise, like we need to start telling the truth to our politicians, and we need to stop being super nice about it. We need full discourse, and I agree with discourse, and that's. Mm-hmm. But whenever they say, "Oh well, it's too expensive to afford for health care for people, so we're going to give them the option if they want to die, then they can just kill themselves."
Yeah. Right? No.
Well, let's be honest about that. Right? Let's have a conversation about that, but let's tell the truth and say, well, look, I don't think that's acceptable. A person is a person, no matter how small. That is the values of being a Canadian, is that we value life.
Yeah, we certainly do that here.
And I think that's what his point of view is in saying we're going to liberate Canada, is that we're going to liberate them ideologically. But that's just, I know he has some other stuff, but that's just kind of what my impression of that whole scenario was. Maybe I know it's different from yours, but that's just.
Oh no, I'm taking him quite seriously. He's hiding behind that, Brendan. He is. It's not that I don't like Tucker Carlson. I'm just laying it out. He's using that language, but you don't use that kind of language, and he certainly knows that you don't use that kind of language loosely, especially in the political environment we are in right now. No, it's not just it's not a verbal meme, and it's not like he is part of it's not like he's what he did was partly a publicity stunt. It's witty. It's an intelligent way to push forward on a political agenda. And he went to Alberta because there is a strong separatist sentiment out there. There is a strong separatist movement. A lot of people have talked for a long time about having Alberta separate from Canada, and he's playing to that and laying the groundwork for it. And there are also a lot of people who would like Alberta and certain provinces to join the United States, and are looking at that as an option. And we're now seeing, just days later, this situation at the border and a call for a divorce of the states, which is basically a call to split up the country. We're seeing a convoy rolling to Texas. We see protests unfolding at the Texas Mexico border. This is not an accident. All of this stuff is fabricated, man. Like, it's not fabricated, but it's choreographed. There are people who are making this stuff happen. And Tucker Carlson is part of it. He knows he's a tool. And I don't mean like a tool as in like a dick. I mean, he's a tool of the information warfare campaign for one side of the political spectrum. Some people would say he's an operative for the conservatives, but it runs deeper than that.
I will agree with you on this. There's no concept. There's no coincidences with any of this stuff. This is all happening at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I think you're on to something when you say that all this political instability is coming forward to this end. And the United States and Canada, well, Canada especially, severely relies on the political stability of the United States. Did you know, for example, that after the original American Civil War, it had led to invasions into Canada? Did you know that we've had invasions in Canada? Yep. And these are Civil War veterans that were Irish in heritage that wanted Ireland to be free, and so they came to Canada. They took over border posts. They started skirmishes with British forts in Canada, and their idea was we're going to hold territory hostage until England frees Ireland, basically. And this was called the Fenian Raids. You can look it up. It's a real thing.
No, I'm well aware. See, and Texas is in play. Like Canada has been in play internationally. This is, and it's not just one political group. I keep trying to explain this to folks here on the show. What you have is a bunch of different political parties, action groups, foreign governments, groups within Canada itself. Everyone is jockeying for a position. They're all trying to push forward and make certain things happen. Our foreign adversaries, and we are at war right now. Make no mistake about that. We're at war with China. The head of our Canadian military has even stated that that's the case. Like really at war. He's said it. Trudeau hasn't come out to say it. He won't, because I don't think he's on our side, frankly. But the head of the Canadian military has acknowledged it. So you have countries that we are engaged in armed conflict with, Russia, China, and they're just doing what they're going to do when a nation state is at war with you. And if it's not a kinetic war, then they're doing the Yuri Bezmenov dance here. And they are just looking for any kind of instability that is out there. And they are throwing resources at it. They're throwing money and getting behind the information warfare campaigns by injecting some of their own videos and their own probably, and yeah, definitely some paid media influencers that they have in key positions to further their narratives and really to encourage people to engage in activities that are very disruptive to our society in an effort to maybe even destroy the country. That's what's going on.
Well, let's talk about something factual for a second. We've been at a ceasefire with North Korea since the 1950s. And what that technically means is that Canada was at stake in that conflict. The United States was. In fact, the United Nations was. When you're at a ceasefire with North Korea, that means we're still technically at war with China, where we did fight the Chinese and the Chinese fought us. China wants North Korea there to be a buffer state against South Korea, which has allied links and that sort of thing. So if we're at ceasefire with North Korea, we're technically still at war with them. And by proxy, we are at war with China.
Yes, we are. We are at war with China. We still trade with them, right? That's the strange nature of war, is people think that when you go to war, then all ties are severed and you become mortal enemies and you don't engage with them at all except to try to kill each other. No, war isn't really quite like that. It wasn't even like that in World War II. I mean, Ford, General Motors, they were still building cars over in Germany during World War II. A lot of American companies still were trading with Germany during World War II. It's a strange relationship, strange things go on during war, man.
Yeah, the head of Ford operations in Germany, he was awarded Nazi of the Year by Adolf Hitler in the 30s.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, war is not a simple thing. These geopolitical relationships are not simple things. Alliances shift. You know, it's and I'll say this too. You know, you heard about Russia, right? I don't know that Donald Trump was. I don't think that Donald Trump colluded with the Russians, but I'm certain that the Russians would much rather have Donald Trump in the White House because he's not likely to continue a war with them. He doesn't want a war with Russia. He wasn't a president who wanted war at all. He's a man of peace, really. So, of course, it shouldn't surprise anyone if the Russians took steps to help Donald Trump's campaign along, maybe without him even knowing. All right. It's like, that's what countries do. The United States does it. Every country engages in that kind of activity. And again, there's no doubt that is some of the stuff that's going on here right now. they're working to destabilize Canada and the United States. If they can destabilize the countries, if they can convince people to stop supporting Israel and cut off the funding, if they can cut off the funding to Ukraine, then those wars go to which side? Russia, China. That's the way these games are played. That's what a lot of this is about. And if they can rip the United States apart, if they can tear it in two pieces, it's neutered. Its global dominance is done. And if Israel falls, the United States, Western society collapses. I don't think people understand this. Okay? That's what's at stake in Israel. Israel falls, the United States basically loses its position in the Middle East. It will create a power vacuum in there. These other countries, the BRICS nations, will come in, fill in that power vacuum. They want the land. Everyone's saying that it's like it's a land grab for Israel. No, man, I'll tell you what, I think it's kind of maybe the other way around. From the river to the sea, Israel will be gone, and Western society loses its influence completely in the Middle East, where we are dependent on oil. The US dollar is propped up by oil. It's a petrodollar, the US currency. It's the world default currency. Its value is based on oil because the Saudis require other countries, all countries, to buy oil from them in US dollars. And that has shifted. That's changed. But you take the US ability to have any kind of interest in the Middle East now, and the dollar collapses, man, like probably overnight. When the dollar collapses, the United States, Canada, Western society, all the NATO, everything collapses because now it's no longer dominant. We don't have the industry here anymore. We've been outsourcing production. We don't have productive capacity. They will no longer have, the financial leverage of finance, and sanctions you wouldn't even be able to use sanctions because you can't sanction another country if you don't have control of the financial system. When they are using the phrase Zionist, that is an all-encompassing and fluid term. It's basically, one, Jews and anybody that supports Jews and Israel, and capitalists. It's anti-capitalism. That's what it is. And they shift the definition today in order to push their agenda forward, which is anti-American, anti-Western, anti-capitalism, anti-Jew, for sure, because the Jews remain the scapegoat. And they keep pushing this forward so that we have a large portion of the population engaging in self-flagellation, self-hate, engaging in the exact kind of activity that people have been out in the streets protesting against. But now it's like, no, America's not exceptional and we hate ourselves and we have to stop all this. It's insane. And people think that if the United States and Israel are gone out of the Middle East, what then the world becomes rosy and birds will sing and the clouds will part and the sun will break through. Oh no, Russia moves in, China moves in. All the BRICS nations go in there. The United States, we're screwed. We don't have, because these other countries are going to go in there with the support of these Arab nations that they've aligned themselves with on that side. That's what's going to happen. And I'm just telling you, man, it's not like It's not about giving the land back to the Palestinians. It's about taking over the land and kicking the U.S. and Israel out.
Here's a real point for you. In a lot of the poorer African nations that have resource wealth, China has gone in there and they've received extraction rights for these minerals. And what they do is they pay for all the infrastructure, all the roads, and then they have the country by the balls at that point. So what ends up happening, and this is a true story because I once had a roommate from China, and he contacted me on Facebook a couple of years ago. He's now in some African country I've never even heard of. And he's paid there by the CCP to go live in that African country. And he's a part of like some operations there. The Chinese have mineral extraction and resource wealth in China by the balls. And that's exactly what you're talking about. We pull out of there, they pull right in. And they say, we have the solutions to all of your problems. Just give everything to us and we'll take care of you.
That's exactly right, because they are the communists. And when they go in, right? Well, I mean, they're mercantilists now. They've seen the benefits of free market economies. So that is really what has allowed. It's a little more complicated than that. They do use capitalism in its purest form. By the way, not free markets. They use capitalism, have used it to build their economy on the backs of the West, because what they've done, and they are just as dependent on us as we are on them, if not more so right now, but that can change. They have the productive capacity now, but they have taken production from the West by exploiting the greed of the big executives who are really following through on their fiduciary duty to their shareholders by maximizing profits. And the government has allowed them to do this, probably because they've been bribed by the Chinese in order to send production over there. They took all of our production. Then they outsourced all of our production, or a lot of it, to China. Then they sell all the crap back to us. Now we can't produce anything anymore, but their wealth has been built by extracting the money from us to pay for all the plastic crap that we bought from them. You understand what I'm saying? Without us being the market, they would never have built up their economy. But now their economy is bigger, and that's why companies like General Motors are looking at China as the growth market, because they have the productive capacity. They've built something of a middle class there on the backs of what has become debt on our side, because we've gone into debt in order to buy all the plastic crap from them. And now they have a robust, growing economy in China. Now they've got problems too that we don't want to get into too much of the economics of it here tonight. But they nationalize things. And what I mean by nationalize is, I mean, they will, without hesitation, if it's in their best interest, they will just take over production of resource industries like oil. So don't think that all of this is going to play out in just a harmonious way. This is about nation states doing what's in their own best interests. Period. It's about power and money, and all these countries, regardless of ideology, are just positioning themselves to do what's in their best interests, where they can get the most resources, money, and power. And it's a geopolitical game, and that's what's being played right now, and is playing out here in ways that are unprecedented for the first time, because it's a much smaller world because of technology, the ability to travel by air, the internet, all of these things. The oceans no longer insulate us from the instability of Eurasia, okay? Historically. Now these wars are coming right here. And in fact, our idiot politicians are so short-sighted and so corrupt that they've imported the problems through immigration without proper vetting and screening and they're flooding the country with this stuff. And that also smacks of corruption as far as I'm concerned, because I think they're doing it because a lot of these politicians have been bought off with campaign money and influenced by lobby groups. I mean, that's really the truth of it all. And it's not just Israel as a lobby group, okay, and AIPAC. It's Arab nations. I showed you the top.
The United Nations.
Yeah, the Israeli lobby is not even in the top 10 of lobby groups in the United States. Not even in the top 10. But that's what I'm telling you, man. That's what's going on, and the country's being torn apart because of it tonight.
Yeah, well, it's been reported that a lot of the migrants from like Venezuela and stuff are being funded by the United Nations. They have United Nations bank cards, and they're ending up on the southern border. The United Nations has a huge thing to play with this, especially with one of the stories we're going to talk about later with the UNRW. Big money, big problems. Like, I have uncovered some weird stuff in looking at that story.
Let's get into it right now. But let's take a quick break. We'll come back. You can gather your thoughts so you can lead us through that, Brendan, because this is an important story. This is about the United Nations and an aid agency that takes care of, or is supposed to take care of, Palestinians in Gaza, and they've crossed the line clearly, and they've been engaged in political activity and even in maybe acts of terrorism. So let's take a break, and we'll come back on the other side. Don't go away.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, get us started here, Brendan. Start walking us through this story about UNRWA.
Okay, so I hope I'm going to be able to tell this right, but anyway, here we go. The United Nations Relief and Works Agencies for Palestinian Refugees in the Near East. So, Israel had came out yesterday, and they had made statements that people who are part of UNRWA, employees of this, were involved in the October 7th attacks in Israel, and this has created some upheaval. So all the major countries that were funding this, which the number one funder of this program being the United States, Canada being like number 5 or whatever, all the countries in response to this have pulled out funding for this. They have quote unquote.
So let me get this split. You've got relief workers for UNRWA, which
Yeah.
is a relief agency by the United Nations, and some of the employees or workers for the United Nations were involved with Hamas in the attack on October 7th.
Exactly. And so, in response to this, a bunch of governments have agreed to pull out their fundings for this. But when you look at this story a little bit deeper, it is a tale of Trump was right. So, Donald Trump had pulled the funding from this organization in 2018. And when I'd done some digging, okay, well, why did Donald Trump do this? Well, I found that it's the same old story that we already have, that it employs individuals affiliated with Hamas, a Palestinian-based Islamist extremist group in control of Gaza and whatever. There have been frequent claims backed by evidence that Palestinian schools administered by the UNRWA have used textbooks and allowed the presence of materials that delegitimized Israel, denigrate Jews, and venerate martyrdom. It has also been this broad program that sucks a lot of money up, where they changed the definition of what refugee is, where they had said, okay, well, if your father was a refugee, now you get to be a refugee too. And so they have broad claims of what a refugee is. It was established as a temporary program in 1949, but lo and behold, it's not very temporary. But some of the examples that I'd found in the textbooks that they're handing out to children, one of them was a terrorist attack on an Israeli civilian bus by Molotov cocktails. It's described in a story as a barbecue party, and it's a part of the Arabic language curriculum for grade 9s. Right. And it's just chock full of this stuff.
Yep.
But the funding involved in this, and clearly an organization that hates Israel and it hates Jews, this could fund like a small African nation for like hundreds of years. And we've been peddling money into this forever. Like, I've sent you the amount of contributions by country. It's absolutely massive.
See if I can find that and put it up on the screen. So they've fired 12 employees, right, so far?
That's what I was my understanding.
Yeah, and in addition to that, we've got Australia now, the United Kingdom, Canada, the United States have all decided to suspend funding because of this revelation.
Yes. And Donald Trump had cut the funding in 2018, but as soon as Sleepy Joe came back into office, guess what happened to the funding? It came right back.
Of course it did, because he's not on our side. And here we go. There's that chart that you sent. Let's take a closer look at it.
Yeah,
Can
so
you
that's
see
been,
that?
Yeah, it's kind of hard. It's been snipped from the exact website. I'm not sure if you're able to zoom in on it better, but I've highlighted the United States and Canada. The United States contribution for 2022 is showing $343 million and change. Canada is showing funding for $23 million and change, almost $24 million.
Yep.
Germany being, oh, imagine that, eh? A United Nations program that aims at destabilizing the situation in Gaza. They have paid $202 million, being the second highest donator to this program in particular.
Yep. Wow. That's huge money. Huge money. You know? Oh, but we don't care about the poor Palestinians. Yeah, I think that we've tried. But that's what Canada is always guilty of, and I think the United States as well, is we try to as much as we're guilty of a lot of things, one of the things we are guilty of is good deeds too, because we do good deeds on both sides, and then you're accused of helping this side or that side when that side does bad things. It's a damned if you do it, damned if you don't scenario. But in this particular case, I think that this funding has been flowing in a way that has been inappropriate and maybe even immoral, because I think people have known about this for some time. I reported on this very story. I told people about this about 3 weeks ago.
In
Yeah.
2017, there was a Gaza Union head, and he was accused of Hamas ties, and he was working for that agency as well, and he was kicked out from that program. So they keep doing the same thing over and over again. At this point, it's absolutely deliberate what they want to do. They're a part of the group that wants to destabilize the whole area. They want to fund people from Argentina and Venezuela. They want to fund them to go to the United States and cause havoc. Then they want to fund all these groups in the Middle East that want to destabilize the area. Like, this isn't just by accident. And it's...
No. Yeah, this is a part of a plan. And of course, this stuff is planned. I mean, people don't go to war by accident. They don't go to war. Governments don't go to war on a whim. You know, a government might get flat-footed by an attack, but somebody's always planning something like this. So, you know, when Alex Jones or some other online influencer says, you know, that this is going to happen, that's because somebody's shared the plan with them, or they've been able to figure it out because they can connect dots, because there's always a plan. Oh, but you know, it's really weird because there was a movie and it was like predictive programming. No kidding. Yeah, because they always plan. They plan out the wars. And then the best laid plans of mice and men, right? But things always go wrong. Never works out the way they plan, because a lot of people die. And here we go. Now we've got this. So yeah, this situation at the, you know, in Palestine, the United Nations completely corrupt. A lot of propaganda coming out of there, man. You know, I'm not excusing anything either side has done in that war, and it is a war. Although I hear people who are trying to make excuses for one side say that it isn't even a war. It is a war. And yeah, I'm seeing a lot of propaganda coming out of there. And I'm seeing propaganda coming out of this whole thing going on at the border in Texas, too. It's this whole thing smacks of planning to me as well. It has all the fingerprints of a planner. Which planner, I don't know, but somebody sure as hell wants our countries torn apart. That's very clear. So what are your thoughts right now with the situation at the Mexico-U.S. border in Texas, Brendan?
Well, I think having a wide open border is wrong. Right?
Yep.
I don't agree with that at all. They need to fix that. Now, what a common theme here with a lot of this destabilization is it comes from liberal sources. You look at Joe Biden, look at Justin Trudeau, look at Europe, which overwhelmingly votes for liberal people to be in their politics. Where's this destabilization coming from? It's coming from them. As for what's happening at the border right now, to be honest, I spent a couple hours going through the internet trying to figure it out. I don't have a freaking clue what's going on. And I think the deeper you look into it, the less you freaking know. It makes no sense whatsoever. If you're leading this up to that video I sent you that's been circulating around the internet, like, oh my gosh, they're taking footage from things that happened in 2022 and they're remodernizing, saying, oh, look, the truckers are coming to the border. They're not coming to, there's nothing happening. I don't know what's going on. Like, if you know, can you tell me? I don't know.
You just hit the nail on the head, and that's exactly what I've been saying. a lot of what we're being fed online is fabricated with either photoshopped images, special effects, imaging and video created with artificial intelligence, or they're recycling old footage and passing it off as something that is new, or even footage from unrelated incidents that look like it's a current event in order to get people emotional and get them engaged to go out and be disruptive or to get involved in a protest. I think you know where I'm going with this, and I'll leave you to say the word or the two words, but it starts with this. One word starts with a C, and the other one starts with an R. I'll throw it to you.
Way to put me on the spot, man. C and an R. What is this, Wheel of Fortune?
Color Revolution.
Color Revolution. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's what I said earlier. Yeah, I said this whole thing smells like Color Revolution.
That's right. That's why I was leaving it to you. I thought this is going to be an easy one for me. He said the words earlier.
I know. I'm like,
But it smacks of this, that, there are players, probably from multiple sides, because that's the way these things work. People don't understand that it's not like one government or one political organization makes a plan and carries it out from start to finish. Something like this is usually started by unrest or a problem that is identified, like this border crisis, and then protest erupts, and then people that, or organizations or governments that want to create instability, help that problem along from behind the scenes, from the shadows, without actually anyone knowing about it. They will find ways to, these intelligence agencies, whether it's the CIA or the FSB or whatever, could be
the US
from
State Department,
India, could be anything, right? They'll put money into it in order to create instability. Now, the problem here in the West, and I'm so tired of people saying this, of course, it's the CIA doing it. No, the CIA doesn't benefit from causing a big freaking problem at the border that they then have to deal with. I'm not saying that the CIA doesn't get involved in some nasty stuff and probably has done some pretty crazy, weird, backwards things that are not in the best interest of the country here. But the point is, if you want to know if you want to know who's likely behind it, look who benefits the most from it, and look at the history behind it, and look at what the strategies are. Who is the very best? The very best. Who has been the very best at propaganda, misinformation, disinformation? Who is like among the best in history?
America? The Nazis?
No, the Nazis. Goebbels. They're the ones who wrote the book on this stuff. And people are, oh, it's the United States. It's always the United States. Do you know why it's always the United States? Because the other guys have figured out that they inject seeds of doubt to get people to say that. They get you. It's always the United States. It's always the United States attacking itself. It's never anybody like, it couldn't possibly have been Osama bin Laden because the United States did it to itself. Israel couldn't have it wasn't attacked by Hamas. They did it to themselves. Duh. Wake the F up, okay? And just think about how stupid this is getting. It's always America killing itself, causing its own problems. No, not always. Not always. How stupid do you have to be to just automatically go to that as your default position all the time? If that's what you're doing, you better, take a look at your nose, because somebody's leading you around by it. The world doesn't work that way. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. You've got foreign governments fueling this stuff, just the way the United States does in other countries. But the United States is a lot more interested in causing instability in Iran using these kinds of techniques than at the Texas border. other countries are interested in doing that shit, or it could be players within the country here who want power, want to assume power here by having the country split up. And if they're interested in doing that, then make no mistake, there are foreign interests, foreign players, foreign governments that will recognize that that is happening, and they will help it along.
Yeah, and there was an example recently. There was a petty officer in the United States Navy. He was stationed in California, and he was paid like $20,000 by the Chinese Communist Party to deliver all kinds of intel and information. This is happening all the time. It doesn't stop.
Yeah, it doesn't stop. It's always going on. You're right. It's exactly right. It's exactly right.
And there's too many players that are involved here for that's why you're right, is because it's not just the United States doing this all. There's too many players involved in this. It's a big mess of weeds to pull through. It's like I was telling you, I was digging through the internet for details about this convoy that was in Texas, and I wasn't finding nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's not there, but with the other convoys, we all had those views that people were taking, like they would set up their cell phone inside the cabin rig of the truck and pointed at the road, and they were driving somewhere. And these were live videos, like miles and miles of highway video has been taken like that. I haven't found anything like that.
Well, we're going to come to that. I'm going to run this clip though right now of this. His name's Pete Chambers. He was on InfoWars, right? And he's like the main guy, I guess. Here, let me bring up this clip. He was on there, I think, 2 days ago, talking about this big convoy, the Take Back America or Take Back Our Country convoy. They're heading down to the border, he says, right? And so this was his clip on InfoWars. Sorry, here we go again. All right, let me get this clip up. And here we go. Come on, play.
That's what Green Berets do. Foreign internal defense is our bread and butter. Unconventional warfare is our bread and butter. Now we're doing domestic internal defense. Look on my website. You'll see it in the lines of effort. We never dreamt that we would be doing domestic internal defense. This is what we're doing, legally, morally, and ethically. But there is a factor here. And the factor is for us, what gets us to the enemy quickly is to find, fix, and finish, exploit, analyze, and disseminate. F3 EAD, that's a model. That's what we did in Syria when we took out ISIS, really quick. Now we don't have the authorities to finish. So what we do, we find and fix. We fix the location of where the bad guys are. We pair up with law enforcement who is constitutionally sound, because there are those down on the border, I hate to say this is the truth, that are not constitutionally compromised. Absolutely. Without
getting into any of the secret stuff.
No, sir.
You've been there federally and state, but now you're down there as a citizen. You're doing incredible work. What is your report from the border before we get into the convoy?
Okay, so from the border itself, you have complete mayhem. There's an old word from World War II called FUBAR. And what that's doing is overwhelming the system, and the system is broken. And we care about people, we do, but they're being used as pawns on that border in a larger chessboard at the world level. And the globalists will continue to use these people to do more than just Cloward Piven doctrine stuff, way more than that. This is to destabilize. This is Bezmenov stuff. This is, we're going to take over your country from within stuff. And when you add the CCP to that little salt shaker in the form of a chemical warfare called fentanyl that's laced with tranq, all right, that's a horse tranquilizer. Why are people dying so much? 130,000 in 2022? That's chemical warfare.
Okay. However, Brendan, you really nailed it as well, because you've realized that a lot of the videos of the convoy that is rolling are not real. That's Yuri Bezmenov stuff. That's that Russian intelligence officer who made that video back in the 1980s that's still online today, explaining how the Russians engage in information warfare. And it's to do exactly what I've been saying. They identify a disruption, a problem, and they just add fuel to the fire. And they're doing that with, and I don't know that it's the Russians, but somebody is trying to get people to engage in a convoy and a protest and to get down there. And they're doing it with fake videos to some degree.
I believe he is running a convoy, except I think his convoy is going to be different. So the videos that are circulating on the internet right now would lead you to believe that the convoy is already there and it's on its way. It's gone to Texas. Right. His convoy, I believe, is expected to launch on the 29th, the Monday.
Yeah.
But
See, in order to get there for this thing, he's saying people will be coming from Canada and other countries. Had a conversation with a gentleman from Poland today about this kind of stuff. They would have needed to leave like this morning and from Canada to get there by now. So I've been seeing for the last few days videos that would lead you to believe that from some locations trucks are already rolling. But I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
You weren't interrupting me at all. I was just
okay.
I was just making a fact. Like I don't want to be misleading with anybody. That
we have
gentleman.
I guess we have. Yeah. So and not to take anything away from what he's trying to do. I guess more power to you. If you want to protest, you want to have a convoy, you go ahead. But I'm just recognizing, I'm seeing that again. There's this propaganda element to it, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, what the hell is this? Why is somebody doing this? Is it him? Maybe not. Maybe it's not him, but somebody is maybe trying to help this thing along or steer people in another direction, but there's something weird going on around all of this, and no wonder this is a huge deal. This potentially could lead to the breakup of the United States of America.
But he wasn't wrong about anything inside that video, like any of his discussions point. But I mean, we've talked to several military people from Veterans for Freedom, Tom Marazzo, other people. What is the thing that's different between how they talk and how he talks? They always talk about what is our objective? How are we going to reach our objective? He didn't talk about any of those things. We're just going to create a convoy and show up there. Okay. Then what?
Yes, that's right. So let me show you. Let me see if I can find. I think you sent me a couple of things here, right?
Yeah, I sent you one. If you want, I could queue it up, and it won't take me very long. I have everything right here.
Sure. Okay.
Is it that video that had the recycled footage?
Yeah, like any of that kind of stuff, because there were, several examples, and I've seen many over the past 2 days. A lot.
Yeah. Hey, one sec. I'm going to turn... There is a song in it, so we're going to shut the audio off so YouTube doesn't skin you alive. Okay. All right, here we go. So sharing my screen.
It might be better, actually, if I do it from here, and I think I've got it, actually, Brendan, because... Oh, you've got it up, because I don't know if your internet's that strong tonight, but we can try it from your end.
Yeah, no worries. I got the audio shut off, so let me know when
you're
ready.
Go ahead. Sure, yep, let it rip. So, any idea when this footage was actually shot?
Well, let's take a look at something here. Like, look at the scenery, like... No, I think it's from 2022. I think that's from 2022 for sure.
Yeah.
That's from the the People's Convoy from the United States, which came together after the Canadian trucker convoy came down.
Right. I remember that. We covered that.
There's just more footage. It gives you the impression that all these people are there. Oh, look, everybody. It almost kind of looks like a Texas area with the planes there.
Yeah. And this isn't even one of the best examples to illustrate the point that we're making here. But, yeah, I mean, they are recycled. Footage is being recycled by someone or some people or some organization or some government in order to make people think that there's a massive convoy rolling. And it's a relevant statement because even on Fox News, they reported that the predicted turnout for this convoy, they're looking at 700,000 trucks. They're looking for 700,000 trucks, they say. No way. They are not going to get 700,000 trucks.
This year right there, that's how the People's Convoy used to park their trucks at night. They used to all put them in like the, to create like a, what would you call that? Like a compound.
Yep. And more than that,
right here.
Yeah.
So I sent Rick a screenshot of this. This here is labeled the People's Convoy. And then this is what really stuck out to me was the sign. Is the sign says school choice. And then it says COVID-19 right below it, which, I mean, you haven't really seen any kind of like school choice over COVID-19 protests in a while. Like that's definitely recycled footage, like right there. Absolutely recycled footage.
Yep. And you know, we're being told as well that it is the people who organized the People's Convoy who are behind this or helping with it. But you also sent me a screenshot of a statement from the key organizers from the old People's Convoy.
That's
and
correct.
Let me bring that up here, right there. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, so it basically reads that with the recent events involving a convoy to the southern border, we at TPC would like to make the following statement. All of us organizers from TPC have been fielding calls and questions regarding the southern border convoy. We have seen news interviews proclaiming that we are helping and or involved in this event. And it goes on to state we are not involved or have helped in any way up to this point. We do not want to take credit for those that are working on this event. And it goes on and on and on.
Yeah. So it's not them. Like, and you know, it's not to say that they're against it, but they're not. All this information that's coming forward saying that it's them, it's not, they're not even doing it. So I guess, well, that guy, that guy on InfoWars there, whatever his name was again, I can't remember now. Slips my mind. Anyway, he's definitely involved and they definitely have a website, but any footage I've seen thus far hasn't indicated that they have a massive turnout starting at this point. I don't think that anything's rolling at this point. We're seeing other activities, and the People's Convoy group itself is not involved. And it's probably better if they aren't, because do you remember how disjointed and unorganized everything wound up with that protest? How it just completely disintegrated and fell apart?
Fell apart, absolutely. We had a situation where people had spent, like, they pulled out their 401k kind of thing to go and join this People's Convoy, which didn't really have any objectives either. Like, it's a prime example of what happens to a protest, that people began squabbling over, like, different funds that they had received. Like, there was all kinds of controversy that came out of how that fell apart. And I mean, we captured some of that on this show back when
it wound up being counterproductive. It undermined the credibility of, I would say, whatever the US version of the freedom movement was down there, which I think that particular group is probably made up, was probably made up and still is, of, you know, sovereign citizens, freemen on the land. There's, you know, that a lot of that element. There's a conservative element to it. It's a populist movement as well. It's people from that end of the political spectrum where I think sort of at the core of what was going on with the People's Convoy down there. And you have the same thing going on up in Canada and the constitutional sheriffs and those kinds of organizations. And I think that's exactly who is also involved to some degree with what's going on directly at the border.
I think I've said this already, but I thought like Republicans and conservatives love being nationalists. we need to keep Canada Canada. We need to keep America America. I think those are all good things.
Well, I personally, I don't want to break up the country. I don't want to see the United States divided. I don't want to see it slip into any kind of civil war. I think these problems can and should be resolved peacefully, democratically. And the problem is that people are being sold this idea that there is no political solution. Well, if there's no political solution, then that only leaves violence ultimately, because what do you think you're going to get if you don't have democracy and no democratic path forward? Then your discourse falls apart. Then you get violence. And on the other side of that, you're going to end up with some kind of authoritarianism. That's the way it works. So anybody telling you that there's no political solution is offering you the opposite of freedom. All right. That is not freedom. And they don't even have to tell me what the plan is, because it is self-evident, but not to a lot of people who just want to hear the bad stuff and, soak up all the fear porn and enjoy the adrenaline rush they get from it, I guess, or whatever it is that attracts people to all that negativity. Well, I'm telling you, man, you're going to get a whole lot more negativity if you embrace there's no political solution to this. You're going to get freaking violence. And some people want that, and I do not.
I don't want that either.
So,
and I don't want anybody signing my kids up for anything that I'm not a part of. That's what these people are doing. Like, a lot of these people aren't even capable of going to war, and they're pushing for it. And they're like, well, let's all go to war with the Houthis and whatever. No. You're not signing my kids up to go to war. There is a political solution. At one time, the left and the right used to be like a part of the same bird, like the left wing and the right wing.
Well, we're so polarized that everyone's fallen off the wings and the bird is crashing. And, I find it also very strange how a lot of people are against going to war in other countries, but they seem to want to go to war right here. It's crazy. Makes no sense, but it's the result of propaganda and conditioning and the crap that people are being fed online. No, I don't want to go to war here either, especially here. It's just, wow. So yeah, that's what's going on with that. What else do we have here? We've got so the People's Convoy, those organizers not behind this. We're seeing that a lot of this footage that is being circulated online is not current. Somebody really wants people to get out there, though, and that's okay if you want to go, I guess, but just know what you're getting into. And that's the thing. Like, before I go down to get involved in some sort of a standoff between state and federal law enforcement or whatever the hell it is that's going to transpire down there, before I go and get involved in anything like that, I want to know who the hell it is I'm following and why, and what are we fighting for? I know what we're fighting against, but to this day, Brendan, I still do not know what these people who are calling for some sort of a whatever they want, they never tell you what they're going to give you on the other side. They don't give you the solution. Not in plain language, they don't.
Oh, if they offer you a utopia, you should be even more scared. Oh, everything will all be, it's like you said, the sky will open up, the sun will shine, everything will be peaceful. Yeah, right. Give me a
Highly
break.
likely. Yeah.
Give me a
No.
break.
So the one thing I think that is important to agree on is that we need to keep the peace. That's the, to me, that's paramount here. And this is the other thing that has raised red flags for me. This is not just something happening at the US Mexico border. This convoy is not isolated. We are seeing these activities being fueled around the world tonight, or not, maybe not around the, not, that's not true. Not around the world, in Western countries. These activities, these disruptions are being helped along with social media in many Western countries, France, Germany as examples. Where in France it's working, and we are seeing protests there erupt into what some people are saying is already on the verge of, if not already, a full-blown beginning of a revolution. So here they are. These are farmers burning tires, and they've been burning buildings there as well, as I understand it. And this has been, to the best of my ability, verified as authentic and current, this footage, because I've been able to find multiple posts from credible online sources to show that this kind of footage is accurate. And so there's like this, and then I'm also finding like images of the tires before set on fire in posts that are current today. So I'm confident that this is real. But it's pretty bad when you don't know what's real and what isn't anymore. And
Absolutely.
this is one of the things that allows people who are engaging in this malicious activity to get away with doing bad things. And just to show you, like, here's another story showing exactly the same thing, but at a different time and a different angle, to verify that this disruption, this protest is happening. See, there's a pile of tires, because they've been setting these tires ablaze in multiple locations in order to block traffic, cause problems. And yeah. Angry French farmers Saturday threatened to converge on Paris, it says here, in the coming days as traffic barricades were only partially lifted on the country's major roads. The developments came a day after the government announced a series of measures the farmers said do not fully address their demands. The farmers' movement, they're calling it over there in France, seeking better remuneration for their produce, less red tape, and protection against cheap imports, has spread in recent days across the country. It's, some of the reasons for these protests vary a little bit from country to country, but there are common denominators, a common thread that runs through all of it. The farm issue is common in all Western countries, even here in Canada. It's the globalist agenda, which calls for less use of nitrogen and fertilizers, because they say that's causing climate change. They want to reduce agricultural output so we can all starve to death, I guess. So
Absolutely. All the liberal policies running through the farm issues is the big common denominator. Absolutely. When it comes to a lot of the stuff. Emmanuel Macron, who was barely elected in, as he's left wing. He has ties with the World Economic Forum, the UN, the European Union. All these things have ties with the World Economic Forum.
I'm going to step aside for just a second, Brendan. I'm going to leave this to you. I'll be back in about 2.
So when it comes to a lot of these things, like, help me out here, people. Like, when it comes to the common denominator with these things, what's pulling at the strings of it? Like, I don't know. But anyway, I've been looking at a lot of this footage here today of farmers, tractors out of Germany, out of Denmark. It's absolutely kind of crazy how it's all merging together. It's hard to determine what the truth is when it comes to that. Some of the footage I've seen being posted as recent, like I'd saved some footage from the Dutch farmers' protest from a year ago, and I had seen that a clip or two that seemed like almost identical. The biggest question I keep asking myself are these things grassroots in nature? Is that what it is? Are these things a natural response? And I think that's one of the questions that Rick has brought to our attention today. I don't have the answers. Like, I really don't have any of the answers to those things. And there he is. He's Rick Walker. Welcome back. And he's on mute.
So yes, yeah. Sorry, my dog was making a racket there in the background, so I had to take care of that.
Like a tennis racket or a...
Oh no, like a noisy racket.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, where are we at here, Brendan? What are we talking about?
We were talking about how I was looking at footage of the farmers and that a lot of it, it's hard to tell what's real or fake with it. I had saved footage from the Dutch farmers protest from over a year ago. And I was looking at that today, and a lot of it I couldn't even like decipher if it comes from that or from that. Like it, I think the big question is this grassroots? Because if it's grassroots, then
yes and no. Yes and no. It is grassroots because some people come out because they just want to come out, but it's not entirely grassroots because these things are helped along with propaganda, with videos. It's like undercover shadowy marketing. You don't really know that you're being manipulated, if you will, right?
Are we playing into the World Economic Forum's hand? Is that exactly? Are we behaving just exactly as they want us to?
It is strange that that is kind of where you end up going, isn't it?
Like, are we to set this example? Look at these unruly, uncivilized group of people. They can't behave. They cannot function in a proper democracy. They should be punished and expelled. I don't know.
Well, we certainly do end up acting against our own interests when we do a lot of these things, and that blows my mind because I don't understand why people do some of the things that they do when it's clearly not good for them. All right, and why they support. It's like it's like gay and trans people out there protesting to support Hamas. It's like you go there, they're gonna kill you, right? It's like makes no sense, but they do it.
Allow me to show you the top of my roof.
Yeah, it's exactly. So it's crazy stuff going on. But today, even here, another convoy rolling, and this one down to the Coots border. Right? Hang on, I need to reboot this page to show you the footage. Here we go. Let me get it queued up here for you. So we have another convoy in Canada. Now, am I saying this one is the result of some sort of manipulation? I don't know. At this point, I don't know what the hell to think about a lot of stuff. Why it's happening. This is, we're on the anniversary though here of and pull this down. So I'll just push this up. So yeah, this is Convoy out in Alberta. Had a convoy heading to the Coots border in support of the Coots 4. So that was going on today.
And that's the type of footage I was looking for what was possibly happening in Texas. Like if there was a
Right. And this is the real deal. Like this is for sure authentic. I know that this is really happening, right? It absolutely is. In fact, I can give you from this angle a better perspective on sort of how many vehicles were there today as they passes. And Dragon is joining us now. Let's bring him in. Hey, Dragon.
Hey. What's up, brothers?
hey,
How are you today?
doing all right.
I'm
Thanks for asking.
Pretty good considering, all the Western countries are on the verge of flying apart and descending into civil war. But other than that, everything is great.
Indeed.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
Are you following any of this stuff or what?
well, actually, I wasn't aware that everything was going apart. Not that much.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, I'm getting few words around here and there, but that's all. That's sad though. I mean, we're getting there. Sadly,
Yeah.
You look cold. Where are you?
I'm in Montreal. Actually, it's not too cold. Actually, it's like 1 degree. So, yeah, we're good.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'm wearing the good shirt. I
Excellent.
just got that. So yeah.
So I'm glad you joined us on the program tonight. We're going to shift gears here for a moment, folks, to talk to Dragon. But we're going to come back to all this stuff about the border and this, the potential for conflict at the Texas-Mexico border, what's going on in Canada, how it's affecting everything. We've got some more information to share with you, but I don't want Dragon to freeze to death out there. So,
well, I'm not freezing at all.
Okay, well, that's good. But you went to a cool auto show and sent some photos along. So I'm excited to talk to you about this auto show that you went to because you saw some pretty interesting things, not the least of which was a Tesla pickup truck.
Yeah. Which looks, I would say, kind of a box. So it's not like the prettiest thing that I've seen, but yeah, it's something. It's gonna be probably on the street for next year. So hold on this one. And it doesn't come on the cheap price.
Overall? Did it look like it was high quality, low quality? I personally think it's one of the ugliest automotive designs of all time, if not the ugliest. Maybe not the ugliest, but pretty darn close. It's up there.
It's cool. Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
So it wasn't just an auto show. There were some motorcycles there as well.
Yeah, there were a lot of things exposed. Actually, you could probably also see some of Luc Poirier Ferrari's collection. So that's pretty amazing too.
I see. Well, here's the Tesla truck, which everybody's seen pictures of it, but you got to get up fairly close to one. I've never seen one, up close. I look at that thing. It looks like a cheap prop from Battlestar Galactica in the 1980s. That they've gone down onto the planet's surface and they're roaming around, and they're about to be eaten by brain-sucking aliens or something. In the back of the Tesla pickup, but I don't know. Did you like anything about it at all?
Well, the design is kind of odd, but yeah, probably looks like more like a stealth kind of airplane, but without the wings.
Yeah, man. I like radical designs usually in automotive products, but in this particular case, it doesn't have much appeal for me at all. It looks almost unfinished, like they started with some basic lines and stopped.
I'm going to be the odd duck out here and say it looks cool.
All right.
I mean, we're almost getting into a between a cyberpunk type of thing and Blade Runner. It's all in the between.
Yeah, and even some of your critiques against it, like, oh, it looks like a cheap prop from Battlestar Galactica. Well, that's kind of like, you just made it sound cooler when you said it.
Well, I loved Battlestar Galactica. It was one of my favorite shows when I was a kid, but I think it's... Yeah, I am. But I think that this thing looks kind of dated, and it looks like it's just not... It looks like they took the easy way out. There are no curves at all. It looks kind of cheap to me. And the front end just looks... You know what part of it is? It's like it goes all the way down to the front, which I guess has design and engineering advantages because
where's the aerodynamic in there?
It's not. It's like it's so flat on the front. Oops, let's go back. Like, that's not aerodynamic.
I think it is. So you got the wind that goes up across like where the lights are, so the wind will push down on the truck, and then it does kind of bend down at the bottom. I think that would be aerodynamic enough. And it's a Tesla,
it's very flat on the front. It's like a big sail. And there's no grill, nothing flows through. So it's just pushing all that air to the sides, up and down. It has to go under or over or to the sides. It can't go through anything. It doesn't create downforce. It's just a great big windbreak.
Well, actually, it's more like I would say a sell product type of thing, because you go there and what you see is mostly like car that you could probably buy. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's
right.
kind of,
well,
it's weird.
So let's move on and look at some of these other things. This is that Guy Lafleur? Who is that?
Yep. Actually,
it's
they have the Guy Lafleur cars exposed when he got into the NHL.
I see. So that's a Buick Riviera is what that is.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, I know that car. That's a Buick Riviera.
It is. I've driven one because my uncle owned a Buick Riviera with T-tops, and I was allowed to drive it a few times with a great big giant big block engine in it. It was pretty cool.
That car was the star of the show Due South from the 90s, starring Paul Gross.
Oh yeah.
These are beautiful machine,
Yeah,
these are classics.
Yeah, boat tail design. They were pretty cool. And what auto show is this? Is this Salon d'Auto?
Yep. This is the Montreal Salon of the Loto in Palais des Congrès. So it's going to be there for, I think, the next 2 weeks. So
and
hurry up.
Yeah, pretty cool motorcycles, too. Oops. We lost that. Let me bring that down.
Yeah, more of a motorcycle kind of guy. But these are beautiful piece of engine. And I think they were made here. So.
What's that, the motorcycles?
Sorry?
The motorcycles were made in Montreal?
I think. Actually, they were made in Quebec. If I'm not mistaken, they are homemade. So. Beautiful artisan.
Definitely custom.
Yeah, we'll bring
and
this
also
back up here. I think I know the guy who made those motorcycles, actually. Oh, I did it again. What the hell is going on?
And also my eyes had to go on the beautiful Eleanor from the movie Gone in 60 Seconds was there. So that was a beautiful one too. One of my favorite car. I don't know why.
There's a Ferrari right there.
Yeah.
Ooh-wee.
Another one.
Those belong
That's
to
the
Luke's Poirier collection.
I see. And some new vehicles on display, obviously, because that's, I think, the focus of that auto show is really to promote
Yeah, this is one of the new Nissan model for next year.
a Z car. Yeah, I've got I have a Z car that I'm restoring. It's been sitting in my garage for the past 4 years because I've been so busy doing all this stuff sitting in this chair that I haven't had time to do any work on it. But I have one. It's old. I've had it for a very, very long time. It needs to be restored. But I would love to have one of those Z cars, a new one. I think they're gorgeous and a bargain actually for what they are. Great little sports car. And there's the Tesla truck again, and the Riviera, and motorcycles.
Ooh, hot rod.
Was this car done by the same guy who did the motorcycles? It looks like we have a matching
Yeah,
pair.
it was in the same stand. Yep.
Yeah.
So beautiful hot rods. Those are special. I mean, you don't go ride that on street pretty often.
Right.
Pretty
Not
sure.
Montreal in the winter. So eat it alive.
A few more images
well.
here.
Oh,
I mean,
the matching bike.
Yeah.
Ford Roadster. Yeah, that thing's pretty cool.
Yeah, those are antiques. Pretty amazing cars. I mean, the way they have took care of everything is beautiful.
Yeah, well, that's not obviously an original restoration. That's like that's a street rod resto. That's not even a resto mod. That's a street rod, kind of a custom build. And that must be a friend of yours standing in front of that Chevy. Yep. And there's the Eleanor car.
Yeah. This one is a pearl. A gorgeous car, and I think one of my favorite movie too. So this is probably why I like this car.
You know something? I had in Chatham, Ontario. I had seen a replica of the Ghostbusters Ecto 1, and they redid it perfectly. It's like one of the highlights of my life was seeing that car.
Yeah. And when you say the Ecto 1 there, I got goosebumps.
Yeah, I'm crazy about Ghostbusters. I love that movie, and when I saw that car, I was like, oh man, that's
Oh yeah, Ghostbuster was one of my favorite thing in my childhood.
Me too.
You guys, you're the nerds, not me.
Absolutely not.
Tell me.
The Ghostbusters were fighting government corruption from 1987 or whatever. Remember that Walter Peck guy? He was from the EPA. They were fighting the EPA. They were like, oh, these guys are spewing toxic fumes. And then the mayor asked Bill Murray, is this true? And he goes, yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
But I mean, we're being called nerds, but it's coming from a guy that calls his dog Cosmo like one of the dogs of the Guardian of the Galaxy, right?
That's right. That's right. I'm guilty as charged.
I got you there.
How many Batman cars do you own, Rick? Tell me.
Quite a few, actually. I have, quite a few. I think the best thing I have is a Batman 1960s style Hot Wheels Elite Collectible 1/18 scale with the Batman and Robin figures. It's a special edition. And it's Hot Wheels Elite 1/18 scale, and it's very cool. It's the George Barris Batmobile, and it's probably worth now like $400, somewhere in that range.
That is my favorite Batmobile.
Is that your favorite Batmobile? Did you say?
Yeah.
Well, I do love Batman, but I almost bought a $30 Hot Wheel car of Knight Rider
Oh yeah.
in the box. So yeah,
You know,
as a collectioner myself, I would have loved to put my hand on it, but
it's funny how when it comes to collectible cars, like cars in general, people always gravitate toward the movie cars. You know, they're the most fun. I guess it's because we're, you know, bombarded with the media and it's so much fun, I guess. And the great thing about Hot Wheels or any die-cast cars is that if you can't afford the real thing, everybody can afford to get their hands on at least a die-cast replica and collect that and participate in the joy. So that's the good thing about it.
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
could go to a bar and you could tell chicks, yeah, I got a Trans Am parked at home on the mantle.
Well, listen, Dragon, thank you for joining us, and thanks for sending those pics. That was a real treat. Really appreciate it. We're going to sign off with you, and I'm going to take a quick break, and then Brendan and I will come back and continue with this special broadcast on the situation at the border. Thank you, my friend.
well, it was a pleasure, my friends. Have a good night, sir.
All right,
take care, all.
All right,
Bon
see ya.
nuit.
Okay, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll continue this discussion and expose into what's going on, not just at the Texas-Mexico border, but really around the world. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
And you know, Brendan, when we talked about this, we talked about planning and certainly this convoy heading to the border in Texas, Mexico. It has been planned, obviously, and there's more planning going into it. I have a clip queued up here. And this is part of a planning meeting that was recorded, and I don't know how they got a hold of this, whether if it's been public or if it's something that was recorded secretly by someone who infiltrated or whatever it is. But anyway, it's out there. So I'm going to share this with you. Not that they're really saying anything that's going to blow your mind or anything, but it'll give you some context. And then we're going to go through this thread on Reddit just to show you that there's a whole other perspective on this again. And it just shows the polarization that has taken place in our countries. And this is why we're at the place we're at tonight, where the United States might go through some sort of a divorce between the states if Marjorie Taylor Greene and those like her get their way.
Back, Southern Border Convoy, we are in for such a treat. This is a travesty what's happening right now on our border. So before I intro our guest, I want you guys to understand that America, this is a warning for all of you. The current administration and the federal government are in violation of Article 4, Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a republic form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion. We are being invaded. If this does not wake you up, America, wakey, wakey, wakey. Let's play that video and take our border back.
Pretty ominous music.
Oh yeah, the recycled footage again.
American sickos.
I don't know what that was. I guess that's probably
In today's Take Your Power Back show.
Okay, so there's that. Now, if you scroll down through this thread on Reddit, you know, people are pretty critical of this because this is people against the convoy, whatever. I've been calling this J6 Part 2 the stupider. So somebody posts here. A lot of these extreme right-wing programs outside of Lindell TV are telling people to come armed. Now they are going to converge on Eagle Pass, Texas on February 3rd. This was recorded a few days ago. It says, I'm so tired of the utter cruelty from these supposed Christians. And it goes on. There's a whole bunch. There are a lot of posts that just rip this. And they, says here, they think they're here to replace, and I don't know, shouldn't read that one. It says here, Trump is losing and flailing. He is calling his Trumpanzees to the trees to howl, trying to make Biden look weak. Are these fools really stupid enough to step in this same bucket of SHIT again? Biden is so much smarter than the orange fool. How can you be smarter when you're completely senile? It's just whatever. I don't know about that. Anyway, this just gives you the taste of the other side and how some other people are viewing this, and it shows how divided people are.
Yeah, there's a lot of that on Twitter too. Like, either they're bots or something, but Reddit is chock full of left-wing ideologues.
I'm not on there, man. I don't use Reddit at all.
Well, you can see why I don't. That's why I never use it.
Is it all left wing like that? Is it all
For
kind
the
of
most part.
wokeism?
Yeah, if you have if you have anything that's even like right of center that is on Reddit, like they'll have moderators shut down your thread basically immediately.
Interesting. I've got some other messages coming in here, so we might have some new information about what's going on. I'm going to just check this stuff out. Here we are. We've got some pictures. Looks like they're coming in here from Eagle Pass. So let's share these out and give you that perspective as well, if I can. Okay, that was from yesterday. We've got this. Here's, I think we got a video actually here, Brendan. So this is unvetted. I do not know what is said in this. But we got a video. It looks like it's going to bring us up to date. This is titled Live Eagle Pass, Texas Takeover, National Guard's Shelby Park. Looks like it's live footage. Let's pick it up.
That one's all in black. Hey, dog.
There was like a dog in the compound. The dog just walks out of the compound.
I guess.
He doesn't look too
I
good.
feel. Well, now we've got. Well, at least we've got our dog video in for the night.
Poor puppy.
Church
All right.
bells.
So I'll let this roll. If we get something more interesting, I will update you. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to backtrack on this and see if I can find some footage from a little earlier that shows you maybe a little bit more of what's been going on. Here's a little bit more.
Of the park.
And they're saying this is a
They
National
literally
Guard
took
takeover
over
of the park.
National Guard have taken over the park.
So this is not live. This is probably from about half an hour ago. We can go back live in a moment. And, you know, Trump is speaking live tonight in Las Vegas. Or was. I think he spoke a few hours ago at a rally. I have not heard what he had to say. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, I think I've got I think this is current. Yep. I've got a clip from Trump coming up here from his speech in Las Vegas, Nevada. And he'll address the situation at the border. Well, you can see what's going on there. They've taken over the park and they're just hanging out for the moment from the looks of it. So let's pull that down. I'll keep an eye on what's going on there. And let's see if we can go to this clip of Donald Trump in Nevada.
Do you think he's going to make it better or worse?
I think he's just going to push ahead with what he's been saying and what he's been doing. I think that Donald Trump will, continue to support the idea and the practice of controlled borders. He'll support Governor Abbott and the other governors from the other 20 plus states that have decided to support what Texas is doing. And this is where the divide is really coming in. You've got two different levels of government in a United States that is becoming a republic that is no longer united at all. It's being split in half, quite literally in half.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's scary stuff, but here's Trump.
It's an invasion of our country. On behalf of all Americans who want a strong and secure border, I want to express our thanks to Governor Greg Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and the great state of Texas, where we right now have about a 40-point lead, for rightly invoking the invasion clause of the U.S. Constitution. It is an invasion. But we didn't need to do it just 3 years ago. We didn't need anybody's help because we had the safest border in U.S. history 3 years ago. We didn't need anybody's help.
So what do you think of what he just said?
Well, I don't know the stats on that, but I could imagine that Trump wants the U.S. border to be, secure, not have hundreds of people just flooded in. And That's exactly what Trump was all about. He wanted to build a wall. It is a national safety issue. Like, it's a public safety issue. You don't know who's coming in. It could be anybody. Could be terrorist. It could be cartel. It could be, the possibilities are just absolutely endless. And I believe that there's been, I don't know enough to, never mind. When it comes to this, though, this is just common sense policy. You need to have the border closed. Joe Biden is behaving exactly like Justin Trudeau. There's a major national issue, and what's Justin Trudeau doing? He's hiding. He's not talking about it. He's not addressing it. When Joe Biden talks about it.
Now, this appears to be footage of National Guard vehicles on their way to Texas. That's what it's being presented as. Again, though, Brendan, we're at a point where I don't believe anything for sure until I'm absolutely able to verify. So as much as I'm showing that to you folks, don't think that that's absolutely accurate.
National Guards do training exercises all the time. There's multiple times a year where even like in Canada, they'll put public safety notices out stating, don't be alarmed, there's going to be military activity in this area. They're conducting training. And then what do you have when that happens? You have a convoy of vehicles, just like we saw, doing said training.
Yeah, see, it's like here's other footage of tanks and armored vehicles being transported on flatbed trains. And so people are posting that this is the state of Texas getting ready to go to war. Well, I don't know if that's an accurate description. I'm not even going to show you that. Here's Ted Cruz. We have a clip of Ted Cruz that I can share with you, Senator, on this issue. Let's see what Ted has to say. Go ahead, Ted.
Joining us now is Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, great to have you here today. Jump on in here. I mean, this is a standoff between Abbott and the White House. Where does it go?
Well, listen, Texas is right, and I'm proud to stand with our governor. I'm proud to stand with our state legislature. Joe Biden has created a crisis, and he has created what is an invasion of the state of Texas, and it's an invasion of the country. Under Biden, 9.6 million illegal immigrants have come into this country. This is deliberate. It is massive. And under federal law, it is the federal government's responsibility to stop this. But Joe Biden and the Washington Democrats are defying federal law. And so the state of Texas is stepping up and saying, we're going to defend ourselves. And Greg Abbott is exactly right that Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution gives states the authority, what Justice Scalia referred to as the sovereign rights of states, to protect themselves from an invasion. That's what Texas is doing.
So that's a constitutional legal thing. And what are your thoughts, Brendan?
Well, he's not wrong, right? I mean, Joe Biden needs to make some sort of good faith judgment on this. Like, he needs to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he has to do something. Governor Abbott has been reaching out to Joe Biden like time after time after time after time. Joe Biden's not talking to him. And that's why he is declaring this constitutional emergency. I don't like that this is almost like a cold civil war that's happening here, where we have two groups standing off against each other. But I'm not going to sit here and say, like, they don't have any type of grievance. They absolutely do have a grievance, but Joe Biden needs to fix this.
Yeah. I think that's a very accurate description of what we have here right now is a cold civil war. I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
Do you think that Joe Biden could de-escalate this, and do you think Joe Biden could fix this, like right now?
Of course he could. He could secure the border. That's how you fix it. You secure the border, no issue, no invasion, No immigration issue? No problem. That's how you fix it. Control the border. Simple as that. Now, here's where I'm at after reviewing all of this material here tonight. I don't think there's going to be a civil war at this point as a result of this. I think that there are some people who would like a civil war. There are some people who want violence. There are some people who are trying to ramp this up. Who those people are, I'm not exactly sure. I can see from these activities online that someone or some people or some governments or organizations are working to get people jacked up even more than they are, to get people to act out in some way or participate. They want to build this thing up. So they're trying to help it, help the convoy, help the protest, get people fueled up. Right now, the conflict that is potentially could erupt is between U.S. military forces themselves. But I don't think that will happen because they're trained, they're controlled by both the state at the state level and the federal level. They're not going to start pulling out their guns and shooting each other. There's too much discipline there. And I don't see the governor of Texas or Joe Biden ordering one side or the other to start shooting those guys or those guys. I can't see that happening at this point. It's not at that level. And you don't have that level of emotion yet either among the troops. So I don't think that will happen.
I think throwing in a bunch of civilians into there. Like,
right. But if the forces that are in play here that are trying to dump gasoline on this little fire or big fire or whatever, however you want to describe it, if they're successful in getting a mob down there, a mob of protesters, that becomes very unstable. If you have a lot of people out causing disruptions and ripping up infrastructure or blocking infrastructure for extended periods of time, getting maybe potentially violent themselves, that kind of thing could result in an escalation. That's where you'd find the escalation. I don't think you're going to get it from the troops themselves. So that's what we need to keep our eyes on. That being said, I'm all for peaceful protest. If people want to get in a convoy and go down there and lend their, express themselves, more power to you, as long as it's kept peaceful. The crazy information that surrounds this, though, gives me cause for pause. And again, big red flags going up for me when I'm hearing, claims that 700,000 trucks are going to descend on the border. I don't think that's happening. I don't see it happening this week. I think there will be a convoy. It won't be that big, not to that level. So, hopefully the public can remain calm. People have level heads. And those who do go to protest will remain peaceful and think before they act along the way. Thoughts?
That's exactly what... Well, I don't think you're that far off the mark. The only thing different I would add is with a lot of these reserve units, a lot of them will answer directly to their commanding officer.
Mm-hmm.
More than anything. Like, so I think that if there is going to be a problem like that where Team A shoots Team B, it's because they're following their commanding officer and some sort of confusion or something like that. But I think having the protesters there is a wild card. And to be honest, I don't know what their objective is. And so I don't know what's going to happen with that. And at the end of the day, they're all going to go there. And something's going to happen. It couldn't just be nothing. that's going to happen.
Don't
There's
know.
only so many circumstances of what could actually happen.
Yeah, the other wild card is politicians like Marjorie Taylor Greene calling for a divorce, right? So that you start going down that road. Well, how do you divorce? Do you go to court and resolve it through some sort of a negotiated process where, okay, we'll have a divorce, we'll split up the states? What does that look like? I don't know. That's part of a political democratic process, really. That if people decide that there is no legal or democratic way forward, then you're going to get violence in the end. And I really don't want to see that happen. Now, if this spreads, it'll impact Canada. It's going to impact Canada one way or another. It already does. And that will be amplified over time as well. I don't think we've got the right guy in the White House, though, to resolve this.
He might even be fueling it.
Pray for peace. Yeah, might be, because I don't think he's working for the people. I don't. No. And if he was, you wouldn't have this happening right now. So, yeah, you know what? It's not the CIA. It's the guy in the goddamn White House. Okay, if you really want to look at what the cause is, and then if you want to take it by extension to look at the real cause, he's not really the guy in charge. There are people pulling his strings. He's a puppet. So figure out who's pulling the strings, and then find out who's controlling them. And then you've got your answer. And I don't think you, excuse me, have to look far or think very hard to figure it out.
Joe Biden, he's like the one politician that absolutely, he looks like, what are those marionette puppets? Like, he even walks like one. He's always like, everything about him, he's just a marionette of a person. I don't understand how anybody could look at anything Joe Biden says and go, oh, wow, that's an absolutely coherent argument, and we need to absolutely vote for Joe Biden.
Yeah. So he's not really in charge. And that's the bottom line. So just pray for peace, man. Pray for peace. Hope these guys keep their heads screwed on straight and don't start shooting each other. It's like, or whatever might happen down there. I just don't know. Let me just check in on this video, this live feed. See if there's anything new going on down there at the Texas border. Okay, and this again is this is from JLR Investigates, a local streamer who is bringing us this live feed tonight out of Eagle Pass. Here we go. He's giving us a little commentary here, so we'll pick this up and listen to what he has to say. Live from Eagle Pass.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you, everyone, for the support. If you are from the area and you know some other places that should be worth noting, share to bring awareness, let me know. Shoot me an email at JLR Investigates. A local, very grateful for a local to take me around to different locations today, to different stash houses along the border wall. So keep an eye out on those videos. I'll show you the stash houses where if illegals that are gotaways that do try to cross over and get over, they run to these stash houses and they hide in the stash houses until they can get some ride or some sort of transportation to come pick them up. So these stash houses are complete messes. They're abandoned homes. But I was in the stash houses today, getting good footage. Up a little bit north of Eagle Pass, there's the border wall, and then there's clothing. There's clothing on the top of the wall where people got caught climbing over and maybe ripped their clothes or clothes fell off. But
So here we are again, Brendan, live streaming, just like it was back in the day of the original Freedom Convoy, except now we're not in Ottawa. We're looking at the feed coming out of Texas.
Marathon it out here for a while.
I know, right?
Thank
Just
you,
like
Lila
the
Peppa.
olden days.
Thank you. And everyone share this video out so you know in real time what is going on in
You know,
Eagle Pass.
I had an interesting thought about something the other day. So, you know how you know how like the southern border is like absolutely wide open. But oddly enough, if you were in Windsor, Ontario, which it has Detroit adjacent to it, and you swam across the Detroit River and you ended up in Detroit, Michigan from Windsor, the Border Patrol would be on you instantly. And you would be arrested, right, for illegal border crossing. We had an incident in where I live where somebody swam across the St. Clair River and they smuggled a firearm from the United States and he got picked up right away. They'll arrest you at the northern border, but at the southern border, oh, come on, amigos, come on in, come on in.
I've thought about that too. They must be really afraid of Canadians, but not so much people coming from the other direction.
Don't get me wrong, there's lots of border crossing points where people are getting to the United States. I mean, there was like a family of Indian people, East Indian people who had drowned in a river and mysteriously disappeared.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So that's what's going on in Eagle Pass. Not really, not action packed at this point. It's just sitting around. Just hurry up and wait is what's going on.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any immediate action on this type of stuff for a while. Like, people are going to be looking at nothing burgers.
I agree. Let's take a look at just a few of the other stories. We'll keep an eye on that live feed for you. And if there's anything important, I will put it back up on the screen. Let's take a look at this one. Did you hear, Brendan, about that Russian plane that was supposed to be carrying dozens of Ukrainian POWs that was shot down by Ukrainian forces?
Ooh, no.
That was earlier this week. Yeah, so I did report on that earlier this week, and there was an emergency session of the UN Security Council over this, with Russia saying that Ukraine had engaged in what they are calling a terrorist attack, which was, I think, a strange way to sort of talk about the incident. It appears to me that there was I don't know what the motive would be behind this, but there was a prisoner swap that was taking place. That was supposed to take place. So on the surface, the information we received is that Ukrainian POWs were loaded on this transport plane, and it was flying in airspace that Ukrainian forces were monitoring, and they shot this thing down, this transport plane. So it wasn't clear at the time whether there was a miscommunication. There was some talk about Russia, accusations or suggestion that Russia hadn't properly communicated with Ukraine to tell them that the airspace had to be kept open for this transport plane, and that's why it got shot down. I don't know. But right now, we're getting this new spin from the Ukrainian side saying that these Ukrainian officials are saying we currently don't have evidence that there could have been that many people on board the aircraft. So it's a suggestion or accusation that maybe these prisoners weren't even on board, or maybe not as many of them as the Russians were suggesting. That's the accusation coming from Ukraine, saying Russia has provided no credible evidence to back its claims that their own forces shot down a military transport plane carrying Ukrainian prisoners of war who were to be swapped for Russian POWs. 65 Ukrainians were reported on board by Russia, prisoners of war. And the Russian Defense Ministry said on Wednesday that missiles fired from across the border brought down the transport plane. They said it was taking those POWs back to Ukraine. And there were 74 Yeah, go ahead.
Is there anybody in this situation that's obligated to tell the truth? Like, is the truth in anyone's interest in this situation?
You know, this is the whole thing, right? It's like, I guess it's because we're in a period of war. So the first casualty of war is truth, and it's difficult to get accurate information, especially now with the internet and instant video and artificial intelligence and all of this stuff. But, you know, it's just, it's difficult. It's difficult to sit in this chair and bring people the news, because a lot of the stuff that's sent to me, I find out is fake. So I have to vet everything as much as I possibly can and do my very best to try not to get burned, so that I don't share information that is not real.
If Russia killed a plane, if Ukraine killed a plane full of Ukrainian prisoners of war, it would be not in their interest to tell the truth about that story. And if Russia had a plane full of Ukrainian immigrants, or POWs, excuse me, I don't know, the whole thing stinks. What a mess. I can't believe that's still going on.
Yeah. And that whole war in Ukraine is, kind of starting to take a back seat has taken a back seat to the situation in Gaza. And, in France, people, the protests are ramping up there. And I'm going to show you some video out of there that is, to the best of my knowledge, authentic. And this is why some people are saying this is like a revolution that's happening there now, not just a protest. And here's
let that roll. I drank a whole cup of coffee here, so it goes right through you. So I'll be right back. Sorry.
So yeah, we've got this footage here. This is farm machinery being used to actually tear up road. People are not happy. So some of these protests going on are real. A lot of the footage is real. Some of it isn't. Some of it's propaganda. Some of it's outright fabricated. It is sometimes difficult to know what is what, though. So that's where we're at tonight with all of that. Also, tonight, this all kind of plays back into as well the use of, the original Convoy in Canada, the original Freedom Convoy from 2 years ago now. And, we are on that anniversary here today. And we did see that convoy going down to the Coutts border. And the Prime Minister's outgoing national security advisor tonight is saying that the likelihood of the government needing to invoke the Emergencies Act again in the future to deal with something like a trucker convoy, as she is putting it, She's saying the government probably would not have to do it in the same way again. Isn't it interesting that that statement is being made just days after the federal court ruling saying that Justin Trudeau's use of the Emergencies Act, the way he used it, was unconstitutional, a violation of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So Jody Thomas took on that role of national security and intelligence advisor just a few weeks before the Freedom Convoy went into Ottawa. That was back, of course, in January of 2022, 2 years ago, second anniversary. We're on it right now. But she is saying that the threat of another convoy, her word, threat of another convoy, or occupation, her word again, occupation attempt, is constant. So the government's worried about it. However, Jody Thomas is also saying that the government has learned from the experience. And if they responded to something like that in the future, they would probably do it completely differently. I'm not sure what that says, other than to say that they learned enough to realize that they did it wrong the first time around. And even the name of that Emergencies Act, it bothers me, because the Emergencies Act was originally the War Measures Act. And Brendan, I'm sure you remember the day that Justin Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act. And, I think you agreed with me at the time that it was an inappropriate use of that piece of legislation, because Trudeau he really did. That was a moment when he went to war with his own citizens by using something that it is the War Measures Act. They just renamed it to give it a warmer, fuzzy feeling.
And liberals love giving things a fuzzy feeling new name on something that's absolutely atrocious. There was no need for it, especially because we had everything that was going on at Coots. Like, the RCMP supposedly found this weapon stash at Coots. Everybody at Coots decided to peacefully resolve that conflict at that border. Everybody said, okay, we don't want to be known for this. We're going to shut everything down. We're going to go home. Everybody at Windsor, that was all quashed by the OPP. Everybody went home. The national emergency was over. There was no national emergency. Mm-hmm. And the best part about it is the Liberals at the time, we had Marco Mendicino, the transportation minister at the time. He had a big smiley smirk. We had Chrystia Freeland, the deputy prime minister. She was giggling and laughing. Like, that was a common denominator of that night, is all these politicians that were like absolutely giddy that they just imposed like the maximum penalty on its own citizens. Yes. And then they turn around and they said, well, okay, this does not justify, the act was not executed properly. This was wrong. And then they go, oh, well, we didn't do this lightheartedly and we didn't want to hurt anybody. It's like, yeah, right. We have the receipts.
Because even if, let's just say that what was going on in Coots did represent a clear and present danger to police and even to government out there, the situation had been handled. The arrests had been made. The threat had been neutralized. So there was no need for the use of the Emergencies Act at that point in order to deal with that anyway. So local law enforcement, regional law enforcement, national law enforcement was already handling things. And there was actually, during the public inquiry into the entire episode, there were police officials that came up and testified that they told the government, certainly I think provincial police indicated, and my memory may be failing me a little bit in the details here, but there were statements made that there wasn't a need for the Emergencies Act at that time, and yet Justice Rouleau still came to the conclusion, from his perspective, that Trudeau, the government, did use it in a way. He he found justification for it. He said somebody else might come to a different conclusion. Certainly the federal court did this week come out and disagree with him. So somebody else did come to a completely different conclusion. But that inquiry, not binding. That inquiry, not really a legal proceeding. That was just a review, which people don't understand. It was a review so that government could review, our public institutions could review it and say, if this kind of thing happens again in the future, this is what we need to do better. That's what that whole exercise was really about. It wasn't a legal process in the way that, charges might be laid or the constitutionality of something would be decided upon at that level. But this federal court decision, that is important. That is binding. And that's why the federal government now needs to appeal that if they don't want it to stand. What do you think, Brendan? Will the ruling stand?
I'm hopeful that it will. And that's because of what Tom Marazzo had told us, that one of the Supreme Court justices had made public statements regarding the Freedom Convoy. So therefore, he will have to recuse himself. So I believe it will stand because of that. That at least gives us a better standing. And so when they also go to appeal it, they'll have to say that the judge who had made this ruling had done something wrong. They have to prove that. And I don't think they'll be able to prove that because his standing on it was very straightforward and clear. And he even was sympathetic to the government. In his ruling, he had explicitly stated if he was sitting where Justin Trudeau was sitting, that he might have done the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
it's
going to get... I'm still curious.
Place, man. I think it was a big win for Canada, for Canadians. It was a big win for freedom, a big win for the rule of law. I think this also shows, and as pessimistic as people are, this to me shows that the system is designed to self-correct, but you need to be patient. You need to let things play out. Eventually, things will resolve. Our founding fathers had a lot of foresight and wisdom. And when they set this system up, they did it in such a way that over time, if a mistake is made by government, it will flush itself out of the system in a democratic and legal way. And that's what we're witnessing here right now. I hope people can understand that, and that enough people are patient enough to let this play out, because this will take us back to a place of more freedom and better balance, like we used to have before. If people can wait long enough, if they're too impatient, we're going to get extremes. We're going to get extremism. We're going to get violence, potentially, probably. And we're seeing that right now in the way that people are reacting to this situation at the border. Again, if people keep their heads screwed on straight, apply pressure, yes, and protest if you want to, yes, but make sure it's peaceful and not disruptive in a way that's going to provoke a response from any level of government in a way that might set something off. Or you know what I'm saying? It's just stay peaceful, get methodical about it, be strategic, do something productive with this.
And put your heart into it. Don't put your rage into this. If you put rage into any of this, that is toxic. Don't be that moron who gets mad at his wife and punches a hole in the drywall.
Right. Because it's not going to get us further ahead. It's going to put us further behind. Even because I'll tell you right now, the people out there who want to get violent, anybody that calls for stuff like that, they are not acting in good faith.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I believe in our country, man. I believe in the United States. I believe in Canada. And I believe that we do have a viable system. It needs some fixing, but it's a whole lot easier to fix what we have and get us back to a place that we all want to live in again than it is to tear it all down and start with something completely different, because I'm telling you right now, what are you going to end up with? It ain't going to be pretty. I don't want fascism, and I don't want communism. I don't want authoritarianism. I don't want exactly what we've got right now, but I sure remember what things were like before. And people might be sitting there saying, but it wasn't real before. It felt pretty damn real to me, because I remember living in the 70s and the 80s, and there were problems, but we kept getting better and better and better, or so it seemed, until we suddenly got to this place like 4 years ago, and we ended up Justin Trudeau and Joe Biden in power, and Joe Biden in the White House, and everything just went off the rails, man. So that's where I'm at anyway.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau coming into power was definitely like a pivotal point. And even the symbolicness of Justin Trudeau being like, well, if you elect me, I will legalize weed. It's like, okay, so
Yeah.
let's have a country that's doped up, and then they're getting overweight from eating too much food all the time.
Yeah. You're exactly right, Brendan. I've been saying that myself. I totally agree with you.
And you know what? I'm going to express some hypocrisy here. Like I've smoked weed in the past, and I still will sometimes. But I'm not one of those morons who says, "Well, it's harmless. It doesn't harm anything." Oh, it absolutely does harm things. You just have to look at the productivity of somebody who smokes weed all day. I can tell you, there's lots of people who smoke weed all day. They don't do fuck all. Pardon my French.
Yeah, I've seen it myself. I know that, and I don't touch it. I don't drink, but that's me. I just don't partake in anything like that at all. I'm pretty straight-laced that way, I guess. Maybe, more than anybody realizes. I'm just so... I am a nerd.
Believe me, people, Rick Walker is a lean, mean podcasting machine. Like that. That is all he does. He has... Well, I guess your outlet would be taking your dog for a walk. You do productive things. Like you're a productive guy. I don't think you're a hard guy to even get a hold of, because you always got something on the go. You're always working on something. And
yeah, well, I will eventually pick up the phone if people call, and I've said that, and I said it the other night too, Brendan. A lot of lonely people out there. Some lonely people in our community right here, in our family, and a lot of crazy things being fed to us over the internet, and it's affecting some people's mental health, because I think a lot of it's pretty depressing. And I've said, hey, if anybody out there is feeling that distraught, if you're thinking crazy thoughts, and you might want to, and you're thinking about doing something crazy, don't do it. You can call me anytime, and we can at least talk. And I'll lend you an ear.
Well, I'll tell you this right now. There is an absolute epidemic of people blackpilling everybody. And what I mean by blackpilling, and there's a lot of doomsdayers out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to get biblical on you here for a second. Like Jesus says, do the birds worry about what's going to happen tomorrow? No, they don't. The birds live for today. God provides for them. And you know what? That's that. Whether you're Christian or not, that is epic. That has a ring of truth to it.
Sure does. Yep. It's absolutely true.
You don't get hung up and depressed on stuff, guys. Like, be productive. There's lots of things that you can do.
Okay, let's take a quick break. We're going to come. Oops, other side of this. Hang on. I'm clicking the wrong buttons. I'm not that productive. Hang on. Still not in the right thing. Well, we'll do this one.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, you want to take a few phone calls here at the tail end of the
Yeah.
show, Brendan?
Let's get
Alright,
a couple of chit chats.
Okay, let's here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set everything up. I'm going to send you a different link because in order for the audio to feed
Yeah.
through, we got to do that thingy again.
Yep.
So let me get that set up. And just
So-
forewarning that I do have a new system that I've set up. I'm just working out the tweaks. It's not here for tonight, but in the days ahead, we will be switching over this whole phone online call-in system. So if you're used to dialing the number that we're sharing tonight, it will end up being different in the days ahead.
We're going to open the floor to all you guys. You could touch on any of the stories that we've talked about. We could talk about this cold civil war that's everybody's talking about. We could talk about UN corruption and some of the things that we brought up and some of the things we found today where that UN organization is beating Palestinians' extremist textbooks in their school system. Millions of dollars being funneled by Western governments to that Palestinian organization.
Here we go. Let me see if there we go.
And we've had an incredible January. There's been a lot of dunking on the libs this month, so like there's lots of stories we could talk about. There's been nothing but dunk after dunk on the libs. In fact, I think this is the hardest month Justin Trudeau's government has ever had in its entirety. Even with UFC 297 happening, where Canadian journalists were fed some hard words by Sean Strickland and Dana White. That was interesting. That was probably going to be the story of the year.
Very interesting. Very interesting indeed.
And I loved how when the reporter asked Dana White, are you going to put a leash on your fighters when they talk?
No.
And he said, give a guy a leash? What are you talking about? You don't leash people.
There, I sent you a message, Brendan, so you've got that link. And I can bring up the window so we can get that phone system pumped in here.
Perfect. I'm going to pull out of here and I will see you on the other side.
Okay, and I'm going to run this here so you guys know what number to call.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975. Free. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
Okay, I've got this there. I still don't see Brendan in here. And let's get Steve on the line. First off, how are you tonight, Steve?
Hello.
How are you?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm okay. The floor is yours. Share your thoughts with us.
Well, my thoughts. I've got a clip lined up on the X platform. I thought maybe you might be interested in looking. Now,
I'm sorry. You've got
an
what?
amateur.
I didn't quite catch that. You've got what queued up or what?
I have a link on X
Yeah.
queued up. I sent it to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I did see that.
Now, I'm an amateur, and I don't know if it's a deep fake or what is going on. It's from an account called Shady Groove.
Oh, I didn't see that. I saw
But it has
something else.
something to do with the. Oh, you might be looking at the Patriot Front that I sent you.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the links come in. I haven't had a chance to really review what you sent. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on.
Yeah, so
Looking here for Brendan on this
just wondering.
other window.
Just wondering if you'd want to press play on that, and we could review it together to see if we can decipher whether or not this shit's real or not.
Hang on a second here. I have to find Brendan. There we go. And are you there, Brendan? Wants to join? Yes. Come on. Where do I get you, Brendan? It's not his fault. It's my fault. Have I lost Brendan? No, there he is. Okay. And there he is. You're in, sir. Finally.
All right.
Sorry about the messiness of that, but you are in now.
Okay, and I'm still here.
And I kind of want to get rid of this thing. I hope I don't lose the window. Hang on. There we go. Perfect. All right, you ready to rock and roll here? Okay, so Steve, yeah, you sent me these links. I'm going to take a look and see what you've sent me. So there's one for another show that somebody had done, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's the last one there.
And then there's
forget about that one.
One on
we'll skip
Twitter.
That one for another night. Yeah, the Twitter one, and it's from Shady Groove. If you link it.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, I don't know if it's a deep fake or not, but we could watch it together live and see if we can decipher whether or not this is a deep fake or not. And it has something to do with the Texas border shit, right?
He says, you are being played. There is no real border wall defense by Texas or the military. Do not go to the border. It is unsecured and dangerous.
That's the one.
Does he talk in this?
That's the one. Yeah, it's like he's a streamer, and it's I guess it's on the TikTok platform.
I'm just reviewing it before I play it.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, just to see if it's relevant or not to the conversation. I might be way off on this, but I saw it and I thought it was relevant to your show tonight, so I thought I'd bring it up.
So this guy is. So. Yeah. So is he saying that? I'm sorry to give you kind of dead air up there, folks, but maybe you guys can talk while I just review this video.
Yeah, so while Rick is reviewing the video, I think from what I gathered from it, so on the onset of the video, I can clearly see that some of the photographs are from the same gate that Rick showed on his show earlier. But then it seems to extend further down, like a mile or so down the road. And it appears that there's some open gate there with no people.
Yeah. So what he's saying in this video, and he's got video to kind of back up what he's saying, is that the crisis isn't as bad tonight as the media would have us believe. The media is sort of getting people jacked up and fear mongering in order to get a rise out of people, or some other people are just trying to get people to go down to that border and do something. So let me just show you this guy's video, and I think that's worthwhile showing folks. So here we go. Okay. Bring it up and let's let this guy talk.
What's going on, guys? So y'all come to my page because of the comedy, and I just play around on here. And I don't get political very often. Sometimes I have some things to say about things. I live in Texas. I was just in Eagle Pass, and I've got some videos I need to show you guys. Because you're watching the news, whether it's CNN or Fox, you're letting these news media idiots get you riled up against each other. Let me show you some videos that might just calm your ass down and make you turn off the TV. Watch this. All right, so this is the wall, the fence that we put up. And they put up a secondary fence because they opened the gates. There's some armed guards with some pretty serious weaponry. Pretty intimidating, right? Here's your razor wire in between the two bridges that are in the entrances into Mexico and also the entrance to Eagle Pass. There's some Hummers, some more guys, right? We're protecting, we're keeping them out. This is 0.5 miles from that area. 0.5 miles from where they set up their cameras. 0.5 miles from where they have all the people there, and it's right down the road. I left this long to show you just how short of a drive it is for us to get to a point where all that we just saw does not matter, and they're just getting you riled up against each other because it's election time. And right about here is where you're going to see it. What's that? Where are the armed guards? Where are the AR-15s? Where's the razor wire? Where's the gates? That's half a mile from where the media is blowing up that Texas versus the feds, that we're having this big battle. So that was one gate. That was the very first gate that I saw. We drove down a little bit more. There's one. It had a chain on it. So you keep driving down the road. You got Trump's wall doing its job. This one has never even had a gate. So to me, it doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, liberal, libertarian. It doesn't matter what you are. And you're posting about this Texas versus the feds, and we could have a civil war. I'm telling you right now, if a civil war breaks out, it's not because there's something good to fight over. It's because it's election time. It is because the news media is corrupt, and you need to turn the TV off. I don't care what news media you watch. Just go down there and look yourself. Go look. The things that they are saying that the feds and Texas are fighting about is a stretch that is not even a mile. How long is the border? They can just walk right over, and those gates keep going and going and going and going. I know you're thinking, well, just 2 gates. No, they're all open all the gates. It's a whole hoopla over this little bitty section in Eagle Pass in between a bridge and a bridge. Only place that there's guards. So if you can't get in half a mile of our border, you just walk down the road and you go across the border there. All you folks posting about this, you picked a side and you think you're doing the right thing. But all of you need to reevaluate the country you live in and the information that's being given to you. Because I wanted to be on the Republican, I wanted to push on the Republican side. Hell, I'm from Texas. I'm in the middle no matter what usually, but I wanted to lean towards that side. And once I got down there, I was like, nope, I don't know. Believe what you want to believe, but I recorded those videos. No one sent me that. I don't know what else to tell you guys, but turn the TV off.
I got it. That was. I think that's right. That's it. He was able to say that in a much more concise way. We spent 3 hours trying to tell people exactly that, I think, tonight.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Turn the goddamn TV off and just start living free, folks.
Yeah, and the social media too, because this is the thing. It's television. It's being fed to you online. People are trying to manipulate you. They are manipulating us.
Well, yes, they're manipulating you. They're robbing you. They're stealing from you. They're raping you. Just leave them. Leave the establishment.
Yeah, you don't have to pick a side. Just go enjoy the day. Problem solved.
Enjoy the sunshine.
That's
if it's raining, put on a raincoat.
Yeah. Take your dog for a walk.
And then if you want to eat that day, well, go out and work and go and earn your dollar and go buy your food.
Because if people descend on Eagle Pass en masse and stage some sort of a giant protest, I don't even know how that helps the situation at the border.
It doesn't.
As you have a bunch of law enforcement trying to figure things out down there, it's just going to create mayhem, chaos potentially. Over what? That doesn't secure the border. That's just going to make things at the border worse and force a political issue, not get us to a solution at the border. Now, if you want to have a political protest, you go ahead, but go ahead. Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
It does send a message. It does send a message that there is a portion of the population that are willing to stand up and speak and say no.
Yeah. You know what, though, Steve? If people wanted to make a difference by sending that message, Eagle Pass is not really the place to do it. You know where they need to go? The White House and protest there. Or,
well, yeah.
So, some other government building and protest out in front so that the lawmakers, the politicians see you protesting there. So going to the border, that's just causing chaos down there. It's symbolic, but doesn't help. It just causes more of a problem for the National Guard.
The symbolism is kind of, sort of, in a way, a good thing, but it's the wrong thing to do.
Yes.
But it's still a good thing. Like, do I make sense there at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you 100% on that. People want the right thing. They feel like let's go do a convoy. That's the right thing. No, not really. It's not that they're bad. It's just not it's not really the right strategy. In the minds of people, they're there. Oh, we're going to go down there and help. We're going to go down there with, apparently there's some militias possibly going down there, right? Well, they don't need your help, man. And you're not.
What's your objective, right? There's no clear objective from it.
Yeah.
I can see what that video was saying. However, I just want to point something out, that if those gates were so open, why didn't he go inside one and show us? So you just drove by them really quickly. That's the only thing that I would say about that. What's behind that? I don't know what's behind that.
I guess maybe we'd have to get in contact with them and ask them to do another one.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I mean, even if you went down there, say you went down there and you were armed, right, with a slingshot or a bow and arrow or whatever the hell you're going to take to the border, and then you got involved in an altercation down there and somebody got hurt or killed, even worse, what would that solve? What are you going to do when the migrants are coming over, the immigrants are coming in? What are you going to do? Shoot them? And you're going to go to jail. That's not going to help anything. No, this doesn't solve any this. It's a bad strategy. Unless
Yeah, it
the
really
objective
is.
is to create chaos and tear the country apart or
That's right.
something. No, bad
That's
idea.
the start of a civil war right there. So it's the wrong approach to begin with by the people.
Yeah.
And you said it right. You know, this is a strategy where it needs to be taken to the White House.
And
so find a way to get Biden on the phone and give him a message.
Or just so get to a place where you can see that you have your big protest. And I know that the People's Convoy tried to go to Washington before. It didn't work out. But come up with another strategy. Find some other place to protest or another way that doesn't amplify the problem. It sends an effective political message so that you get to a solution. I don't know what else to tell you, man. Like,
well, I would say this: do we really want to provide the Democrats with political ammunition during an election year?
No, and we don't want to see more people thrown in jail. Too many people sitting in cells already. Like, I'm sorry, they might be effective and useful as martyrs, but I don't want to see people go to jail.
Yeah, neither do I.
No. There are other ways to get things done. You don't have to do it that way. And I think that ultimately, if that's the big risk here, not a smart thing to do, really.
People need to realize that our system is actually perfect. It's the people running it.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's the
Yeah,
people
there's
running
bad
it.
faith actors.
Until the people can get it through those thick fucking skulls and accept the fact that our system is actually perfect.
Or as perfect as it can be, and we keep working to make it closer to perfect all the time. Yeah.
Well, that's the best part about us, is that it was never meant to be perfect. And if you're looking for perfection, then you're looking for utopia. If you're looking for utopia, you're probably some sick communist.
Yeah, give it some time. These things will flush out if we let it, you know. But
yeah, I think we just got to let it go. I mean, this year is the year of the lawsuits. We got to let the courts do their things. We gotta just let it take care of itself.
Let it play out.
Let it play out, yeah.
And I think that you're going to get a change.
We're not gonna do it.
You know, I think Trump's going to get reelected, and
I do too.
Yeah, and that's part of the process of change, and that's now less than a year away. So just stay the course, and you'll get what you want in that way, if that's what you want. But you're going to get change. Yeah. You can feel it in the air.
At the end of the day, if you're against the current establishment, just back away from it. Just say, no, I don't want any part of this, and worry about what makes you happy in your little homestead.
Wise words, Steve. Very wise. Listen, my friend, I'm going to get you any final thoughts, get you to wrap up. I've got another caller waiting in the wings here.
No final thoughts. Take care of your other callers. Thanks, guys.
Outstanding call. Thank you, Steve. That was fantastic. Appreciate it. And here's Patty. Hello, Patty.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Good. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the right name? Did I have the right name? What's your name?
Yeah, you got the right name. Hey, Rick, I want to let you know, I don't know a lot about Canada, but I listened to you through that. I discovered you, I think, during that trucker protest.
Yeah.
And everybody hates Americans nowadays, and with good reason. I'm not gonna lie, but it's weird because I'm old enough to remember when everybody loved us, and you Canadians are still one of the few people that don't totally hate us, and I got a lot of respect for Canada. It's literally one of the most beautiful countries on earth, and originally I'm from the American Midwest, and I mean, I could be wrong, you may disagree with me. I mean, you know more about your country than I do. But I really think Canadians and American Midwesterners are very similar. The cultures aren't totally the same, but they're very, very similar. And when that trucker convoy happened, like you guys are always kind of, well, I don't know about you guys, I don't only speak for you, but a lot of people seem to think Canada is like a prison planet type thing. But, you know, the United States is a interesting country. You guys are probably more the same, but again, I'm ignorant. You know, it's very different from state to state. It's very different from region to region.
Yeah.
So not every place is Texas. And Texas isn't as free as everybody thinks it is. So when you guys did that trucker convoy, sorry, I'm an Irish American, so I get diarrhea in the mouth. This is a convoluted way of me saying the truckers, you Canadians, inspired me and a lot of Americans. And a part of it was your show. I think you guys, you weren't just an inspiration for Canadians. You guys were an inspiration for the entire world. So I just want to thank you for that. And I just want to tell you guys I got a lot of respect for it. I wanted to talk about the border. I don't want to eat up all your show. Just hang up on me if you need to. But I just wanted to let you know there's a lot of Americans that really love Canadians and love Canada. And, you know, we know that you're – and it's not just that. It's not nothing. Like everything I know about Canada is from – I'm old enough to remember SCTV, Rick Moranis, John Candy. Like pretty much everybody in Second City was Canadian at one point. You guys have some of the most talented, you guys have some of the most talented comedians on the face of the planet. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but culture is far more powerful than politics. So you guys, you Canadians, have been a huge impact here in the States. You know, like giants that, you know, you really punch above your weight class, you know? And Americans love Canadians. Just wanted to let you know. But anyway, I'll shut up. But I wanted to talk about the Texas border if you got time.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to tell you, I'll just interject, then I'll throw it to Brendan. I love Texas. I had often thought I'd like to live there. I went down there and even thought of at one point moving to Texas. I love Corpus Christi. You know, I love Dallas. Houston's pretty cool. I love the state. I love everything about it.
You're absolutely right about
beautiful.
You're absolutely right about the Midwest having a lot in common with Canada. Like these are a lot of countries or states, a lot of states that experience a lot of the same kind of winters that we do. They experience a lot of the same kind of hobbies, whether it be hunting or collecting maple syrup or what have you. I, in fact, am a descendant from my great-grandfather comes from Menominee, Michigan. And they have a sizable French population in Menominee, Michigan, believe it or not. And it's quite similar to French Canadians and lumberjacks and all that sort of thing. We do share an incredible amount of culture at the end of the day.
Hey, just real quick, can I ask you guys, and if you guys hate me for asking this, like, I don't know anything about it. I'm a foreigner. I have no say in the matter. But I think the Quebecois should be allowed to secede if they want to and be their own country and like keep their own like French culture. Is that a horrible thing? Are you guys against that? Are most like English speaking Canadians against that? Or what do you guys think about that?
Brandon, you go first.
Oh, okay. Well, let me see here. I don't think that we should be divided at all. I mean, I have a lot of disagreements with Quebec. I think Quebec is a big piece of division in Canada, but at the end of the day, sorry, you guys are part of Canada and you are Canadians, so you're going to have to stick with it. And what would happen to the Montreal Canadiens NHL team if Quebec were to separate? Would they be called the Montreal Quebecers? They would have to like rechange the name.
Yeah,
very true.
Yeah. I'm kind of with Brendan. I'm in the camp that I want to truly save the country. I don't want to break it up. I don't want to tear it all down so we can reset with something else. It seems like everybody wants to just tear everything down. I don't. I think it's worth saving. I think that I think Quebec should stay. I would never take out a gun and say, you're not leaving. If they decide to leave, they decide to leave, but I don't want them to. And the same goes with, Western provinces, which, they have a pretty strong separatist movement out in Alberta and Saskatchewan, very substantial separatist movement. And that's why, Tucker Carlson coming up here, I don't think he went to Alberta by accident. It's because they have that separatist mindset out there, and a little bit rebellious. And there's been a lot of talk over the years of having those provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, maybe joining the United States. So, and, potentially even Ontario, I don't know, Manitoba. I don't know. Some people would like, and I think there are people in the U.S. that would love to get their hands on Alberta because it's a resource-rich province. It's it's full of oil, right? It's worth a lot.
I've heard about that movie. Is there any legs to that, or is that just something that just a few people are really behind? Is there any chance that could happen?
I would say yes. There's a definite chance, more of a chance than people realize. People take this country for granted. We've been through, referendums before with Quebec, and people out in Alberta right now are right fed up because the federal government gives them a raw deal. We have things here called transfer payments, where they basically take money from Alberta and then transfer it to other provinces, people in other provinces, especially Quebec, which is a form of, a source of resentment for people in Alberta because they suffer financially as a result. And the government has gone to war on oil in this country. So Alberta is really suffering. They're not living up to their potential. They should be awash, not just in oil, but in money. They should be incredibly prosperous out in Alberta, but they're not. And that's why a lot of people want to leave.
Yeah, it's the same thing in the States. I mean, the United States has more oil. It's blessed with everything you could possibly want. Natural gas, the most fertile places to grow food, the best places to raise meat, the best places to go fishing in rivers and in the ocean. We have everything we could possibly ever need in the United States. Really, this country should be, I understand people think that the United States is rich. It's not anymore. Maybe it was at one point, but in my own lifetime, and I'm not that old, I've seen the decline. Americans are not wealthy. Americans are poor. We're living on gas fumes. And if the dollar wasn't a fiat currency that the Federal Reserve prints wasn't still like the world currency, but that's changing, we'd be nowhere. I don't even think America's military power is really going to get it through things. And see, the things you were saying about Quebec and stuff, or excuse me, the secession movements that kind of exist in Canada, that's just, I started hearing that stuff. It sounds a lot like America. So just to bring it back to Texas, with Texas, with what's going on there, I'm conflicted because you guys were kind of talking about this. I was listening before, don't go to the border and do something crazy and yada, yada. And we know that the American government and the Canadian government with the truckers, you guys had your own kind of January 6th thing, but we had January 6th in the United States.
No, sir. No, sir. We did not have a January 6th in Canada. We had nothing like that. What we did have was a grassroots protest where people had civil disobedience over the COVID-19 mandates.
Well, I would argue that that's what January 6th was. January 6th, maybe you guys have a different version of January 6th than what I do. January 6th was not a terrorist attack. It wasn't an insurrection. It was grandmothers with MAGA signs and American flags peacefully protested, and they were set up by the federal government. And again, you guys know Canada more than I do, but respectfully, I disagree with you. With the trucker convoy, I watched it enough to know that it was a setup by your government. And I don't know, maybe because of Canada's laws, you can't say that or something, but I'll say it because that is a fact. And January 6th was not a violent insurrection. It was peaceful civil disobedience by Americans who were infuriated, and rightfully so, that the election was stolen. And it was stolen.
I've seen much worse demonstrations from organizations that are, more oriented toward the left that there's no consequence for. Yeah.
We'll go back to 2020, the summer of love. Those SOBs, I won't curse because I have respect for you guys, but I want to. Those SOBs, Antifa and Black Lives Matter, they burned down American cities for a whole summer.
Yep.
And those guys, the very few of those, and we're talking about thousands of people had to be involved in that. And very few people ever were arrested for that or charged. And they got probation. They got slaps on the wrist. Yeah. Then they do this COVID hoax, which is what it was. And they locked down our country when Trump was president. So Trump is to blame for that. He's never said he was sorry for it. I don't think he ever will. But that's a whole other issue. But he was wrong about that. And I'm willing to believe he was lied to and he was manipulated. But, who knows? I don't know if Trump is, really, he's really an undercover agent or something like that. But who knows? He's the best we got right now. So they locked down our country. They stole our election. I'm telling you right now. I mean, the evidence I have is anecdotal. But even in Democrat states, I don't think anyone voted for that old crazy SOB in the White House, Biden. Nobody's going to vote for an Alzheimer's patient. Now, I'm sure there's crazy people everywhere that vote for him. There's no way he won. There is no way he won. And that's the people, and whether you agree with that or you don't, the people from January 6th, that's the way they felt about it. And they were asked by Trump to go there and peacefully protest, and that is what they did. And the violence that happened there, that was all caused by the feds. There was one person murdered that day, and it was Ashley Babbitt. She was a peaceful protester. She was climbing through a window in the Capitol building, yes, because the cops let them in, and she was shot by a Capitol police officer. He didn't give her a warning. He didn't tell her to stop. He didn't try to subdue her. He went ahead and he overrode his use of force rules that he's supposed to have. You're not supposed to immediately jump to lethal force. And he shot and killed her. And he should be tried for murder because he is a murderer. January 6th was not a violent insurrection. It was civil disobedience, and those people were set up. Those people were set up. And Trump, another thing I'll say about Trump, he could have pardoned all those people. The plenary power of the president to pardon is unlimited. Even before those people were charged, and it was obvious they were going to go after people, before he left office, he could have said, okay, everyone is pardoned in case anybody in the future is charged. And he didn't. He didn't. Now, on the campaign trail, he said he's going to pardon people, but those people were told to go out there by their president. They went out there as patriots, and he left them out to dry to a degree. Now, I'm willing to forgive Trump, but that was sort of a rabbit trail. I also wanted to compare January 6th, which was a setup by the federal government. I wanted to compare that to what happened at Charlottesville here in the United States as well. Are you guys familiar with Charlottesville and what happened?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, that was another setup. Say what you will about those people. Were some groups maybe real white supremacists? Maybe, I don't know. I've never met a white supremacist. I've lived in America my whole life, couple decades. I've never met a white supremacist. I've never met a guy in the KKK. Whenever there is a guy in the KKK, he's always on TV and he always ends up being an FBI agent. But they were going to tear down
a Democrat
statue or a Democrat. Well, the original KKK was all Democrats. But here's the thing. They were going to tear down the statue of, I think it was General Lee. I don't know. I think it was General Lee. It was one of the most famous Confederate generals. Now, we can totally disagree and say the Confederates were evil. I don't, by the way, I'm not here to debate, but the American Civil War was not about slavery. But be that as it may, whether you like the Confederates or not, they are part of American history. We had the war. The war was over We agreed to reconcile and stay together as a country. After you reconcile, there shouldn't be attacks on the other side by the side that won. And General Lee, whether you love him or you hate him, personally, he was a great man. He was a great man. He was a great soldier. He was a great statesman. He was a great leader. He's one of the greatest leaders in human history, whether you agree with the Confederacy or not. And I'm not a Southerner, all right? I don't have any Confederate blood in my body. My family fought on the Union side. We fought against the Confederates. But that man is a part of our history, good, bad, or indifferent. Honestly, he was a great man. If you don't agree, that's fine. But they were going to tear down that statue. And that is, you got to understand, to American Southerners, that's like going up to one of your great statesmen. Like, who's the greatest statesman in Canadian history? Like basically, you're George Washington. Who do you say that is?
We don't have anything like that.
Okay.
Well, no,
whatever.
you know,
Wayne Gretzky. Oh, sorry.
Okay,
I'll be
sure.
quiet.
Yeah, that's like asking who the greatest Canadian is, right? So a lot of people would pick like Terry Fox, who ran across the country after having a cancerous leg amputated, to raise awareness and funds for cancer research. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so let's say there's a statue of Terry Fox somewhere. Sounds like there is.
There is.
So say now everybody decides for whatever reason, you know what? Terry Fox was a horrible racist. And by the way, General Lee was not a horrible racist. That's nonsense. But he was a horrible racist, and we're going to tear down his statue. To American Southerner, that's the same thing. It's like saying you're going to tear down a statue of George Washington. And in New York City, they're starting to tear down statues of Thomas Jefferson. They started with the Confederates. Now they're going to the founders.
Yep.
That's
disgraceful.
That's disgraceful. Thomas Jefferson had written the greatest words to ever be known to the free world, that all people created equal under God. And that, Thomas Jefferson was always conflicted over slavery, but at the end of the day, it was those words that led to the freedom of slaves in the end. That the debate of slavery was happening at the inception of America. And ultimately, that's why slavery didn't last there.
You got it on the nose. And what you said, I'm surprised you're a Canadian, because that's exactly how Americans feel about Thomas Jefferson. So think that when you're thinking of how Southerners look at General Lee, at Robert E. Lee, that's how they look at that man. They revere that man like that. And they were going to tear down that statue, and there was tons of men that went there. Now, yes, some of them were quote unquote white guys, that kind of thing. And there are no white guys in America, by the way. White is a communist false identity. America, if you want to understand it real simply, in the South, it's Protestant mostly. In the North, it's Catholic, like me, mostly. That's the unwritten grammar of America. If you want to start to understand America, you should study Ireland and Germany, and study Scotland and England. Then you'll start to understand America. And those people went down there to peacefully demonstrate. They got a license. They got a protest license, or the hell they call it. Of course, in the United States, apparently we have the right to free speech. The whole damn country should be, a free speech zone. You shouldn't need a permit. But they went about the law. They did the right thing, and they were set up. They were totally set up. They were set up by the cops, who, as soon as enough people got there, they shut everything down, and they forced them to funnel them, instead of allowing them to instead of taking them, like escorting them back to their cars so they could get out of there. It made them go through a gauntlet of Antifa, who they knew would attack them. And that young man, I forget, who was convicted of murder, he murdered a woman there in a car. He was trying to get away. There's plenty of evidence that shows he was just trying to get away. And the whole I agree with. You know, we have an invasion in the United States of America. What's happening is not immigration. What's happening is demographic warfare. They're trying to change the makeup of the American people. And there is an ethnic makeup. You'll never get a Republican to talk about it. You'll never get anybody to talk about it, but it's not white. It's Irish Catholic. It's German Catholic. It's that's in the North. In the South, it's Scots. They don't call themselves that because Protestants, no offense, but Protestants don't know who they are. They got confused when they gave up the faith. There's Scots and there's people of English descent, mostly Scots. If you want to know what an American Southern person is, it's a Scottish person who's a Protestant. That's the culture that made up the South. And in the North, it's mostly Irish and German Catholics. Now, and there's other groups too, but they're smaller and they're located in different regions. Like if you're talking about Italians, you're talking about New Jersey. So there are specific groups of people who made up the United States. There's specific groups of people that made up Canada too. America is not just an idea. It's our home. And it's made up of specific types of people. And when you start bringing in all these other different types of people, yeah, I don't want the people here because they're terrorists. I don't want the people here because they're taking jobs. I don't want the people here because they're criminals. But I don't want the people coming, not because I hate anybody, I don't want them coming at all, even the ones that are going to follow the laws. Because you can't transport millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of people suddenly into the United States and expect the United States to stay the same. And the United States has changed radically in my own lifetime. California is a totally different state now than what it was when I was born in the 70s. And that is what they're going for. They are bringing in foreigners who do not share American values. They don't give a damn about our history. This may not make sense to you, but honestly, if you want to understand America, learn Irish history. Irish history before America in Ireland. You're going to understand America a lot better. You're going to understand Canada too. I don't know a lot about Canada, but I know some of your founders were former Irish Republicans. And the Fenians also, they invaded Canada. So don't tell me Canada doesn't have an Irish Catholic influence. It does. But
yeah, we actually brought that up on the show earlier today about the Fenian raids after the Civil War.
Oh yeah, what about?
Oh, there were a group of disgruntled Irishmen that were ex-Civil War vets, and they took over border crossing points and forts and stuff like that in Canada. It was a little bit of a mess.
It was a bit of a mess. But the point I'm trying to make is there are a specific group of people in Canada and the United States who make up the United States. So what the Democrats are doing, and honestly, it's the Republicans too. Like Fox News and the news you get into Canada from America, it's all BS. You know, the Republicans are in on it too. Now, and they're trying to change America. They're trying to make America a completely enslaved nation, and that's easier to do if you import a slave people who don't give a damn about America. They don't give a damn about our history, and they'll do as they're told. And all they want is either free stuff or a good job or a good life. I'm not blaming those people. People are coming here for a good life. I understand that. And people say, "Oh, America is a country of immigrants," and the left has weaponized that idea. And again, you guys don't have to disagree with me. I know you guys got the goofy hate speech laws up there, and we're getting them here too. Don't get me wrong. But America is not a nation of immigrants. It's a nation of Irish Catholic immigrants. That's who built this country and made it great. That's who built this country. They're not going to tell you that on Fox News, but people who really understand America, like me, that's the unwritten grammar of America. And they're trying to change it by importing the entire world here. And I think this thing on the Texas border could be another big setup. They're trying to get people to come, and they're getting people all inflated and all, riled up and yada, yada. And by the way, I don't think men that are going down there are like planning to do anything bad. I think the feds might, if anybody's going to do anything bad, it's going to be the feds. And just like January 6th, just like Charlottesville, they're going to set those people up, just like, and I know you disagree, but just like the trucker convoy, they're going to set people up and then demonize them and call them white supremacists and say that they're evil. I mean, this happened in St. Louis. There's a statue in St. Louis in the United States of King Louis. And, they wanted to tear down that statue, claiming it was a symbol of white supremacy, which is the most absurd thing in the world. King Louis lived centuries and centuries ago, before there were any Africans in Europe, and before there even was the United States. So a lot of Catholics went down there, and it was pretty much a Catholic thing, and they prayed the rosary, and that was their way. That's the Catholic way of protesting, to pray for the intercession of God. And the people down there, the Antifa and the people that were trying to advocate for the destruction of that statue, they were demonizing the Catholics, calling them white supremacists, which is the most absurd thing I've ever heard of. You had Hispanics down there praying.
I'm gonna throw it to you to kind of give us a final thought here, because I do have to move on. But this has been a great call, and yeah, just throw it back to you to kind of wrap it up for us.
Thanks, Rick. No, the point was they were trying to set those people up too, and they were trying to demonize them. And I think that's the same type of thing that might be happening in Texas. I don't know why Tucker Carlson is saying, is Texas going to defend the border? And the media is saying, hey, this is another civil war. It's not another civil war. We need to keep a cool head, because if you go down there and you do anything that can even be conceivably thought of as justification for them to use force against you, they will. They'll use it as a way to demonize you, and they'll say, look at all these evil white supremacists that we got. There are elements in our own governments, in Canada too, that are at war with their own people, and we need to recognize that. And like the Bible says, be gentle as doves and wise as serpents. And that's what we need to be. We need to understand that there's people in government who control things, who do not mean us well, and they are trying to orchestrate things. But I support Texas 100%. I wish Texas would become a republic again. If Texas secedes, I'll be the first one to move there. And I don't even like Texas that much, to be honest with you. I think it's a lot of it tight. Texans love to talk a big thing and say that how great Texas is. I think Canada is a lot better than Texas, to be honest with you. But anyway, thank you very much. God bless you. And everyone, there is no salvation outside the Catholic Church. Convert to Catholicism. Have a good day.
Take care.
That's what I love about Catholics is they have the roadmap and they stick to it.
I think that,
hello.
I think the Pope should pay you there, Patty. You have a great night. Okay, so the check's in the mail from the church, I'm sure. All right, let's move on. How are you tonight? Go ahead, you're on the air.
Hello, it's Pope Abraham Lincoln Clement XIV here.
Well, it's a privilege to have you on tonight, sir. How are you tonight?
Greetings, Your Holiness.
Now, what's this fuss about? I thought I explained in 1773 that Jesuit order fascism is well defined as a heinous political monopoly.
You did indeed, sir.
And it's not east, west, north, or south, and Carl Tuckerson is not going to save you.
Carl Tuckerson, yeah. In fact, he may lead us astray, I suspect. I have a little bit of a different take on who's behind everything going on at the border than our last caller, but I do agree with him. We need to keep a level head and keep everything peaceful. And I don't think it's really all that productive to run down there to the border, but I throw it back to you, Choosy.
Yes, the answer is not at the borders. The answer is at the no less than 4 North American Knights of Malta headquarters in the shape of a J that fell over to the left and then belly up. Okay? If you go from Oakland, California to Washington, D.C., and then up to New York City and keep going up to Ottawa, and it's kind of lopsided and it's a little angular, but it's a J that fell over to the left and belly up. Okay. And it's not the coast. Well, Ottawa is kind of the coast, but it's a river.
All right. Well, listen, we don't have much time left. We have to sign off. So I'll throw it to you as well, Choosy, just to give us a quick wrap up here.
It's the number one priority. Do not be distracted by the dancing Jesuit rooster pimp self-made issues. Okay?
Okay.
Roger
Much
that.
love.
Love you too, man. You have a great night, sir. I'll talk to you
No
soon.
fear.
Look forward to the next call. Take care. Bye. That was Choosy. And thank you for calling in tonight, Choosy. Really appreciate that. And Brendan, it is kind of at that time of night, so let me take.
Yeah, so you may have noticed I stand up when I do the podcast now. So we've been standing for like 3.5 hours. Holy gee, my legs are feeling it.
Wow. Well, I've been sitting and I can't feel my legs at all. Yeah.
You know, I've been meaning to try and fit in a pun where I go, I won't stand for it, but I'm standing up. So, hasn't happened yet, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to throw it to you now for a final thought before we sign off tonight.
Well, I think our good Catholic caller there had an interesting point that we didn't really touch on, that it is not outside of the realm of the possibility for inside agents of the United States to set something funny up down at the border there. So if you are heading out that way, keep your eyes and ears open. And, I love you guys. Like, come on. This has been a great show. Thanks for having me. I'm terrible at closing these things out. So anyway.
Yeah, well, no worries. We can certainly wrap things up in a pretty clean way here. All I can say is if you guys are so inclined, you can support the program by donating at maverickdonations.com. The other way to donate is through the Rumble Rants. You can certainly do that. Although, if you donate $60 or more to cover the cost, we do have those Maverick News shirts. Right now with the embroidery. It'll help pay for the phone system and make not too much on each one because of the cost of shipping and so forth, but they are in stock. And if you donate 60 or more, I will send you the shirt at no charge. $30 or more, and you can have a t-shirt just in when you place the order at maverickdonations.com or freedomreporters.com. Just make sure you tell me what size you need, and you can have it in any color you want as long as it's black, just like Henry Ford's old Model T. And yeah, that's all going on right here. So love you guys, and love you too, Brendan. Thank you for spending the night here, my man. And
yeah, no worries. It's been a pleasure.
And we'll be back here tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't do anything stupid. Don't do anything too crazy. Just a little bit crazy is okay. Not too crazy. Stay peaceful. Keep fighting for freedom. Catch you guys on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.